Immortal Cultivation begins with time management. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 751. Blessings come to mind, exactly the same. Tenenbaku fled all the way back to Tipching Mountain, and from time to time he scanned it back with his spiritual sense to confirm whether Kyo Chang was chasing him. Seeing that the other party was still standing on the wasteland, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that this man was indeed a gentleman of ancient times. After returning to the treasure hall, Tenenbaku reported to the masters, and said with shame, "My disciple is incompetent and failed to defeat the Changjangzhenren. Fortunately, I did not lose. It was just that my true energy was exhausted and I left early. Please punish me, masters." "Didn't lose?" Elder Mokong smiled sinisterly. "I was suppressed by the opponent throughout the whole process and never had the upper hand. If this is not considered a defeat, what is it?" He scolded Tenenbaku and let him go. Tenenbaku left the treasure hall and showed a relieved expression. His master, Master Barjin, never returned during the journey to explore the western region and has been missing since then. Everyone in the sect tended to believe that Master Barjin had passed away, and his disciples had either switched to other masters or were in seclusion. However, Tenenbaku, as the eldest brother in the Jindan realm, refused to accept the recruitment of any great master, so naturally he was troubled by the masters. Not far from the treasure hall, Gilai came out from the side, clasped his hands together and said with a smile, "Congratulations, senior brother, for escaping from trouble. Junior brother Gyu, thanks to your reminder, I finally survived this disaster." Tenenbaku also laughed heartily. "If you need anything, just tell me." Gyu usually doesn't like other things, but only likes Buddhist scriptures. Gilai recited the Buddha's name and said seriously, "I heard that senior brother has a copy of the Mandala Sutra. I wonder if you would like to give it up." "That book you mean?" Tenenbaku said embarrassedly, "It is indeed something I found by chance, but it is just a fragment, and the back half seems to have been torn off." As he spoke, he took out a storage bag, took out a torn sutra, handed it over and said, "It's useless to you, so give it to you as a thank you gift." Gilai took it indifferently, but he knew that since Tenenbaku carried it with him, he would definitely not really think that it was useless, so he pretended to read it. "Junior brother." After a long time, Tenenbaku asked tentatively, "Did you gain anything?" "I benefited a lot." Gilai said seriously, "This mandala is born from great compassion. After the Tathagata obtained all wisdom, he used the power of great compassion to give birth to the endless and majestic mandala of the body, so it is said to be born from great compassion." He talked about profound Buddhist principles, and Tenenbaku was confused and could only smile and say, "So it is a profound Buddhist principle. Junior brother, I'm glad you like it. Junior brother, I'm glad you like it." He ran away in a hurry. Gilai watched this senior brother leave and secretly calculated in his heart, "I already have the middle fragment of the Mandala Adornment Sutra, which can be used to practice the endless adornment of speech. Now I have obtained the first fragment from Tenenbaku, which can be used to practice the endless adornment of body. I still need the last fragment, that is, the endless adornment of mind, so that I can collect the entire Mandala Adornment Sutra and practice the Garba Mandala. But where is the last fragment?" The only clue was that some monks of the Mortal Do had seen similar Buddhist scriptures in the Dharma Transmission Hall. It seemed that he had to find some time to visit the Patriarch Wei and Madam Wei. He didn't know if the contacts he had in the past could still be useful now. Thinking silently in his mind, Gilai sighed again and said Amitabha. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly saw a man stepping over the gate and striding over. It was the beloved disciple of Master Mokong, Long Xiang. This man was 8 feet 8, taller than Tenenbaku, with a gloomy face, like a cadre of an illegal debt collection company. "Brother Long Xiang." Gilai bowed hurriedly. Long Xiang nodded slightly, without even looking at Gilai beside him, and walked straight into the treasure hall. After meeting the masters in the hall, Long Xiang left the treasure hall again and found that Gilai was still beside him. His mind moved slightly, so he went over to ask, "Did Tenenbaku lose to the Changjangzhenren?" "Yes, senior brother." Gilai said respectfully, "Senior brother Tenenbaku was worried about the opponent's first-grade golden elixir and his strength, so he fought hard with him, and finally his true energy was exhausted and he was forced to withdraw." Long Xiang sneered. This Gilai must be old and confused, and his words are also incoherent. The first part is worried about the opponent's first-grade golden elixir, and the second part is fought hard with him. Is there any causal connection between the two? He said with a contemptuous tone. Tenenback knows everything, but he is not good at anything. When he meets this kind of person who is also practicing all aspects and has better talent than him, he naturally can't beat him. Wait until I go down the mountain and collect the head of Chan Zheng's Hinran, and then come back to ridicule your senior brother. After saying that, Long Xiang laughed wildly and strode down the mountain. Gilai looked at his bag with pity, thinking that this senior brother was really upright. No wonder he chose the path of bodybuilding. Will he be beaten by Chan Zheng's Hinran later? Or will he be killed? Emotionally, I hope it is the latter. But judging from the rational point of view, the probability of being killed is not high, and he should be beaten half to death. However, the dragon elephant went down the mountain all the way, and at the back, he simply ran, and a single step could reach several feet away, and there was a sound of wind and thunder between his steps. When he came to the desert, the dragon elephant saw a real person standing in the air with a sword in front of him, and immediately shouted, "I am the dragon elephant at Tipchin Mountain. Come, dog thief, come and die." After shouting the lines, he took out the magic weapon from the storage bag, which was a very rare 8-sided golden spear. However, the spear magic weapon is also a rare thing among all flying magic weapons, probably because although its flying straight line speed is similar to that of a flying sword, it is too inflexible to turn, and it will be finished if it misses a hit, so few cultivators use this magic weapon. The dragon elephant grabbed the 8-sided golden spear, and its body suddenly bent like a long bow, and threw the spear in its hand towards Qiu Chang's Haiyan. Qiu Chang's Haiyan was shocked when he saw him posing as a spear thrower, but then he immediately reacted and shot the Tianyuan Yeki sword forward with all his strength. The golden spear tore through the air, making a low sonic boom, and then hit the Tianyuan Yeki sword head-on. Even with Qiu Chang's Haiyan's powerful true essence of the first-grade golden elixir, he couldn't stop the bombardment of the golden spear. The Tianyuan Yeki sword was directly chopped away, and the 8-sided golden spear was also deflected by the huge force, whistling past Qiu Chang's Haiyan's right side. The sound alone felt like tearing the eardrum. Qiu Chang's Haiyan immediately became angry, and used his left hand to stabilize the Tianyuan Yeki sword, and his right hand quickly shot out a lightning, which was the Shengxiao thunder that was specifically designed to destroy life. In ancient times, the divine thunder was a special attack on the demon race because it could directly destroy life. No matter how strong your body is, it can be smashed to pieces with one shot. Before the lightning reached him, Long Xiang had already sensed the great danger. He bit his tongue with all his strength and spurted out a mouthful of blood, which quickly formed a large net in the air. The large net was sticky and filthy, but it only blocked the divine thunder for a moment before it was torn apart from the center. The rest of the people continued to move forward and passed over Long Xiang's head. This person actually took advantage of the little time that delayed the divine thunder and forced himself to perform an iron bridge move. His upper body bent backwards 180 degrees, and he barely avoided the bombardment of the divine thunder. The latter hit the desert ground and quickly blew up a large pit. Die, 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 die. Long Xiang, who was almost killed by the divine thunder, didn't understand what was going on at this time, but he was dominated by fear from the bottom of his heart. He guessed that the other party's thunder method was extremely restrained against the body training school. If he was struck by thunder by accident, he would be shattered to pieces. What should he do? In his mind, Gilai's previous word flashed like lightning. I was worried that the other party was a first-grade golden elixir and had strong strength, so I fought hard with him, and finally my true energy was insufficient. Long Xiang suddenly had a blessing and shouted, "What a powerful 5 thunders righteousness! What a powerful Chan Zheng's Hinran! I, Long Xiang, am convinced and wanted to compete with you, but my true energy is insufficient. I will go back and take some pills before coming." After shouting, he covered his face and turned around, fleeing to Tipchin Mountain. 2 other monks successively used the same excuse to flee. Now it was the Kunlun main formation watching the battle from the back who also understood what was going on, and everyone laughed without hesitation. Chapter 752. Invincible. He won 2 rounds in a row, and both victories were inexplicable. After the opponent got on the field and was hit by a few moves, he started shouting "Awesome hero," which made Qiu Chang's Haiyan speechless. Before the third opponent came, he received a message from the head of Ziwei sect, telling him not to be careless. The Shira sect on the opposite side had always been rampant, and now they had lost 2 people in his hands. Who knows what tricks they might use next? Qiu Chang's Haiyan calmly replied, asking the master not to worry, and that the disciple would be extremely careful. After sending the letter back to the main formation with a flying sword, he continued to guard the foot of Tipchin Mountain, calm and silent. The dragon elephant was in a panic, tumbling and crawling all the way back to the Tipchin Mountain sect. He went to see Master Mokong in a dejected manner and said, "My disciple is no match for Master Chengen. His thunder method is too restraining to the way of body training." My disciple was exhausted at the end of the battle, and reluctantly accepted a draw and returned. He couldn't continue talking because Master Mokong was so angry that his face turned blue. He had reprimanded Teninbatu before, but in the blink of an eye, his disciple used the same excuse to prevaricate. When other great masters heard this, they didn't know how to laugh at him. Forget it. After all, the merchant Mokong had been in a high position for a long time, and he was still able to swallow his pride, so he forced himself to find a way out. "Your fighting method happened to be restrained by others. It's not your fault, it's just bad luck." After saying that, without waiting for other elders to mock him, Master Mokong sighed and said, "Now Kunlun is coming with great momentum, blocking my mountain gate in the name of drowning battle, but not attacking. What should I do?" If Kunlun directly attacked Tipchin Mountain, it would be a disaster for the family, and everyone would fight with real swords and guns. But Kunlun just blocked the gate and refused to leave, calling it coming to ask for advice, and Shirodado really had no good solution. If he fought with Master Changjeng according to the rules, it would be a shame after another. If he did not follow the rules and went directly to Master Yunying, first of all, he still could not deal with the many elders of Kunlun's main formation, and secondly, he would be completely humiliated. Neither left nor right can work. There seems to be no other way to go except to give up. In this case, we can only try to delay until other sects come to help. The elders looked at each other and sighed. That's the only way. Master Mokong laughed and let the matter go. Who will go to the battle next? No one answered. This is not surprising. After all, the masters don't want their own disciples to die tragically on the battlefield, nor do they want them to come back and say nonsense like "I can't beat Master Changjeng, I fought hard for a long time, my true energy was exhausted, and I barely tied." But Kyo Chang Tian was outside challenging him. If no one was willing to go out to fight, it would be too embarrassing for Shirodado. So Master Mokong coughed and said, "In this case, let's send people according to the ranking of the masters." Shirodado does not have a real headmaster, only the so-called great masters and other masters, who share the right to speak in the sect according to the ranking. The second one was Master Shawa. As the great master Master Mokong had just lost a disciple and lost face, it was considered a great sacrifice. He could not think of any excuses at this time, so he could only accept it with a gloomy face. After leaving the palace, Master Shawa called all the disciples, pondered for a moment, and said, "Mantuo, you go." Mantuo's face suddenly became ugly. Tashi, Teninbatu, Longxiang, the brothers and sisters who used to be powerful in the sect, now were beaten half to death by the real Changjeng, and the news that they fled back to Tipchin Mountain had already spread throughout Shura Road. Now it was Mantuo's turn to go down the mountain to fight. He certainly wasn't stupid enough to think that since the three people in front of him were alive, he wouldn't be killed if he faced Changjeng. So he immediately cried and said, "Master, even Longxiang and Teninbatu are no match for me. How can I, with my humble strength, be a match for the Kunlun dog? It doesn't matter." Master Shao said indifferently, "Master didn't expect you to defeat Changjeng. You just need to delay time, and then say that your true energy is not good enough, and you can just run back." Mantuo nodded with a bitter face, and he was completely speechless in his heart. No one would have any positive emotions if they were sent to be ravaged by the opponent, and they were ravaged under the observation of the entire Shura Road and Kunlun. Master Shawa also knew that this was too much. After all, although Mantuo's relic was of the third grade, it was not of the same order of magnitude as Changjeng Shenren's first grade golden elixir. Therefore, after a slight hesitation, he took out a wooden fish from his sleeve and handed it over, saying, "Look at your useless appearance, take it for self-defense." Mantua was overjoyed when he saw this, and the other junior brothers also showed envy. This wooden fish is Master Shawa's signature magic weapon, called Iron Fish Chime. It only needs to be injected with true energy and then struck once to release a circle of defensive sound waves, isolating all attacks such as flying swords and spells. It is a treasure that low-level cultivators can easily use to save their lives. Disciple will definitely live up to Master's trust and will. Mantua also said it smoothly, almost saying "kill that Kunlun dog," but then quickly reacted and made amends. "I will do my best to defend the dignity of our sect. Go, go." Master Shawa was also tired after hearing this. If you can defeat Chan Zheng and defend the dignity of the Shirodado, I will let you be the leader of the monks in the Relic Realm, okay? Just don't embarrass me too much. Mantuo quickly left the sect, flew down the mountain on his sword, and came to the desert. Seeing Qiu Changtai standing with his hands behind his back in a Kunlun Taoist robe, Mantuo's confidence, which had swelled because of the treasure, suddenly disappeared without a trace. May I ask if Chan Zheng is here in person? He put his hands together, chanted the Buddha's name, and asked loudly. Really? Qiu Changtai was a little bored. There is a difference between good and evil, and there is no point in talking more. Let's fight. Then I will ask the real person to teach me. Mantuo quickly took out the iron fish chime, injected his true energy into it with all his strength, and then began to strike it quickly, not daring to stop at all. Dong dong dong, dong dong dong. For a moment, whether it was the Kunlun main formation behind him or the Iron City cliff in the distance, everyone was a little nervous. Including Qiu Changtai, all the Kunlun monks didn't know what happened. They just saw the Shirodado monks on the opposite side did nothing and banged the wooden fish fiercely. They were also very confused. The Shirodado monks were all dumbfounded, thinking that Mantuo defended with all his strength as soon as he came on the court and completely gave up attacking. He was too cowardly, however, considering that the opponent was Chan Zheng's Hinran. It seemed that it was not a bad strategy. Qiu Changtai was silent for a moment, and then he tentatively shot out the Tianyuan Yeki sword and killed Mantuo directly. The Tianyuan Yeki sword hit the sound wave barrier of the iron fish chime, and it suddenly made a loud bang, but it was completely depleted and bounced away. There is a chance. Mantuo was overjoyed. As long as I can maintain this magic weapon and prevent Chan Zheng's Hinran from attacking, I can be invincible. At the time, I can say that the true essence is not good, and then the game ends in a draw, and I can return to the sect safely. Chapter 753. Take South Underdragon, wins the third game. Turtle Shell. Qiu Changtai suddenly thought of this word for no reason. Judging from the performance of the two people before, the strategy at the Shirodado fan monks is very obvious. It is nothing more than to delay time blindly, not to lose quickly, and then use the excuse of insufficient true essence to go back to the sect to prevaricate the elders. This is of course a helpless solution. After all, the gap between the first-grade golden elixir and other golden elixir is greater than the gap between the fourth middle school of the imperial capital and the vocational high school. If you can't beat it, you can't beat it. If you don't delay time, what else can you do? Can your true essence hold up if you maintain the magic weapon like this? Qiu Changtai asked curiously. Mantuo didn't answer, but just concentrated on knocking on the wooden fish, using all his strength to stimulate the true essence to maintain the sound barrier wall, and sweat was already slightly on his forehead. Qiu Changtai also sighed. I don't even need to do this. After a stick of incense, he will dry up his own danton. How can you be so foolish? I, Qiu Shamran, hate this kind of self-sacrifice the most. Let me help you get rid of it. Judging from the scan results, this is a pure sound magic weapon. However, its grade is very high, and all its functions are focused on defensa. It is simple and crude, so its defensa is ridiculously strong, and even the Tianyuan Yeki sword can't do anything to it. This is the characteristic of fighting in the world of Immortal Cultivation. There are all kinds of strange and bizarre restrained relationships. For example, the mutual generation and restraint of the 5 elements, and the confrontation between a strong spear and a strong shield. Qiu Changtai sighed, thinking that if he hit the Jade Morning Thunder among the 10 thunders, its ability to break all barriers would be a great way to deal with this unreasonable defensive magic weapon. However, no trace of the Jade Morning Thunder has been found now, so let's try the Take South Thunder of the same grade. Since he learned the correct mental method of Take South Thunder in the ruins of the Donghuo sect, Qiu Changtai no longer needs the assistance of the Thunder God Cone and the Thunder God Hammer. In addition, he is now a first-grade golden elixir, and has reached the great perfection of the Seeking Root stage, so the abundance of his true essence is extremely terrifying, almost approaching that of an elder who has just formed a Yuanying. He crossed his fingers and made a strange gesture. Then, a large amount of white lightning that seemed to have substance suddenly seeped out from between his fingers. The lightning intersected in the air and instantly intertwined into a giant dragon of nearly 100 feet. There were countless electric snakes circling and jumping around it, and lightning surrounded it, as if a calamity had descended from the sky, and the evil spirits rushed to the sky. Mantuo below was already dumbfounded, and then he saw that the thunder dragon suddenly lowered its head, and its emotionless eyes locked onto him. Then, the giant dragon of lightning swooped down. Before it reached a height of 100 feet, a large amount of lightning fell like a rainstorm, hitting the sound barrier around Mantuo, and each one could drain a large amount of his true energy. It was not that this magic weapon could not resist the thunder method, but that the attack power was too strong, and Mantuo's true energy could no longer support it. Realizing that a disaster was imminent, Mantuo could no longer shrink in his tortoise shell. He could only bite his tongue hard, urging his blood essence, and instantly sinking into the ground. Earth Escape Technique. At the critical moment, he had already exhausted his blood essence, performed the Earth Escape Technique, and drilled into the ground at a speed far beyond the ordinary. At the same time, the giant dragon formed by the Texau thunder finally hit the ground, and the smoke and dust instantly rose more than 30 feet high, accompanied by violent explosions, dust and thick smoke. The monks on both sides of the camp were in an uproar at the same time. No one expected that Mantuo, looking at the monk with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would actually practice such an unconventional magic as Earth Escape. Considering that most monks now use flying magic tools to travel, unless they are the kind of monks who are very obsessed with running away, who would bother to learn the 5 elements escape technique? Even practicing the sword control technique would be better. Compared to the cultivators in Kumlin's camp, the Shirodada was more nervous, because the thunder dragon was too exaggerated. No one in that situation would be confident that they could escape with the escape technique. The smoke and dust dissipated, revealing a large pit, but there was no blood inside. Maybe he ran away, or maybe he was beaten to pieces, with no bones left. Only Qiu Tian, because he kept scanning, knew that Mantuo used his blood essence to activate the secret method, and drilled hundreds of feet underground at once. Unless it was an earth magic, it would be impossible to hit him. It doesn't matter, as long as we can win. After winning 3 games in a row, Kumlin's momentum has been extremely strong. Everyone is discussing the various methods used by Chan Zheng's Hinran, such as the simple and crude Tianyuan Yeki sword, such as the powerful Woilai's Hinfa, etc. Qiu Tian was about to continue waiting, when he saw the flying sword of Ziwi's sect master delivering a letter, saying that Kumlin had won 3 games in a row. The momentum was blazing, and now it was time to withdraw the troops. After receiving the news, Qiu Tian smiled slightly, and then said loudly in the direction of Tipchin Mountain, "I have learned from you all today, but I am not satisfied yet. See you tomorrow." After that, he turned his sword light back to Kumlin under the eager gaze of the Kumlin monks. When he returned to the side of the Ziwi sect master, he saw that the eyes of the elders looking at Qiu Tian were full of appreciation, satisfaction and admiration. Regardless of which family they came from or whether they were neutral factions, at least everyone had a strong sense of identity with Kumlin. Qiu Tian defeated 3 Shirodada monks in a row this time, and they all won in a straightforward manner, which really made Kumlin proud. The Ziwi sect master was too lazy to continue to be reserved at this time, and laughed and said, "I thought that the siege of Tipchin Mountain would have the risk of too many casualties. Now it seems that as long as one of my disciples goes out, it will be enough." The elders agreed one after another. Anyway, at such a festive time, there was no need to confront the sect master's faction, and everyone began to say some nice compliments. On the other hand, on Tipchin Mountain, in Chura Road, there was a gloomy cloud. Mantuo used the earth escape technique to sneak into the depth of nearly 100 feet underground, then moved to the belly of Tipchin Mountain, and finally emerged from the ground. There are many iron mines in Tipchin Mountain and its vicinity, so the consumption of earth escape technique is even more exaggerated than that in ordinary underground. Mantuo almost used up his last bit of true energy to barely break out of the ground in the courtyard, and then immediately fainted, and there were charred marks caused by thunder all over his body, which seemed to be seriously injured. Since thunder magic has long been declining in this era, no one thought about the fact that iron can conduct electricity. They only knew that the thunder magic of Chan Zheng's Hinran was too powerful. He couldn't escape even after drilling underground and was beaten to death. What else can we do? It's really impossible to beat him. The monks were almost excited, thinking that if they didn't resist, the top leaders would make us line up to die in a few days. The crowd rushed to the door of the treasure hall and were about to protest and shout when they saw Master Mokong walk out of the hall and said coldly, "Why are you making noise outside?" When the great master of Shirodada came out, the momentum of the monks was immediately reduced by 90%. The leading monk was terrified and said with a smile, "Great master, let us ask how Brother Mantuo is doing." "He's fine, he's not dead." Master Mokong said impatiently, "If you want to avenge him, just stay here." Hearing this, the monks dared not stay any longer and immediately ran away. Chapter 754. The struggle for succession will never end. The war between Kunlun and Shirudado in Tifchen Mountain attracted the attention of almost the entire cultivation world. Yinglido, Tianmodo, Donghuangdo, and Fanxingdo quickly organized reinforcements and headed west from the Qiline Mountains to rush to Tifchen Mountain. Penglai also reacted quickly and quickly organized a batch of supplies to support Kunlun. It's not that they were unwilling to send people, but mainly because Kunlun did not recommend Penglai monks to participate in the war. Those who understand will understand. Qiu Changtai still went to the foot of Tifchen Mountain every day to fight and provoke, beat the Shirudado monks who came to fight half to death, and then sent them back to the sect to spread terror. Zhu Yinglyan was envious and asked Ziwei sect master to fight. So the number of people who had been fighting in the desert for a long time increased from 1 to 2. This was a great news for Shirudado, because the consumption rate of consumables had also doubled, and now 2 people had to go to fight. Fortunately, after a few days, the Jirizhao allies finally came to help, which made the Shirudado monks finally relieved. They quickly led them into Tifchen Mountain and entertained them. What happened in Tifchen Mountain is not known for the time being. Anyway, Kunlun quickly held a high-level meeting to study how to deal with the help of the demon cult. First of all, the arrival of the demon cult was expected. Qiu Changtai said calmly, if we had not besieged Tifchen Mountain, the demon cult would have sent a large army to the north to cut off our connection with Gyeongthong. Now, as long as we are stationed at the foot of Tifchen Mountain, Shirudado will not allow allies to leave Tifchen Mountain. In this way, Gyeongthong will not be in any danger. This is the way to turn passivity into initiative. The elders of Kunlun nodded one after another. It is indeed true. After all, the reason why Kunlun pressured Tifchen Mountain was not to uproot Shirudado, but to contain the subsequent actions of the demon cult. As long as the demon cult army is contained in Tifchen Mountain, then the strategic goal will be achieved. Chang Zhengzhenren said it well. So, what should we do next? Elder Yuan Zhao asked with a fake smile. Chang Zhengzhenren, now the 2 sides are facing each other in Tifchen Mountain. If we are not careful, it will cause heavy casualties. This is very easy, senior, please listen to me. Qiu Changtai smiled slightly. Now the armies of both sides are concentrated in Tifchen Mountain, and neither side can act rashly. We're worried about casualties if we start a war rashly, and the demon cult is no exception. More importantly, the demon cult is not a monolithic entity, but is divided into 5. No matter which faction suffers a slightly larger loss, it will be dissatisfied with the way demon head. Therefore, I think he should be more troubled than me at this time. Ha 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 ha. The Kunlun elders laughed in cooperation. That's right, our Kunlun is very united, but their demon cult is 5 sects, and they are only reconciled because of interests. If we really consider the losses in the war, their internal intrigues are much more serious than ours. However, the key now is not here in Tifchen Mountain. Qiu Changtai waited for everyone to laugh before continuing, but in Gyeongthong. If Gyeongthong is lost, Tifchen Mountain will win even if they win consecutive games, but the overall situation will also be a loss. If Gyeongthong is saved, even if Tifchen Mountain has no success, it will still win in the end. I think you seniors should understand this. That's right. Master Ziwei echoed, the reason why we, Kunlun, are going to this battle is to protect the resources in Gyeongthong from being involved in the demon sect, not to defeat Shirudado for the sake of fame. Recently, I heard that some cultivators claimed that Chang Zhengzhenren always spared his opponent's life in every battle, which was an unnecessary woman's kindness. This is really absurd. If we just kill indiscriminately and force Tifchen Mountain into a desperate situation and fight to the death, what good will it do to our Kunlun? Why are we fighting this battle? Please go back and explain to your disciples. Don't let me hear such rumors next time, otherwise I will pursue them to the end in the name of confusing the sect. He said the last words while looking at Elder Yuan Zhao. The elders present knew exactly who sent those cultivators who spread rumors and slandered Qiu Changtai. To be fair, most of the third-party neutral elders actually hoped that the 4 major families of Kunlun would fight each other. They were most afraid that the 4 families would be as close as one family, monopolizing all resources and leaving nothing for others. However, now everyone can clearly see that whether it is the talent for cultivation, the strength of the realm, or the wisdom and decision-making, Chang Zheng has no rivals in the vast Kunlun. The Guanzhou family resisted so stubbornly, using all means, and even started to spread rumors. Tifchen Mountain clearly had the advantage, and we won consecutive battles, but it could be said that we were too soft-hearted. It was really outrageous. It is because Chang Zheng is a man of high moral character and Ziwei sect master is considering the overall situation that they do not bother with your Guanzhou family. If you continue to push your limits, do you really want to fight to the death with the Zhu family and tear Kunlun apart? Sensing the unfriendly looks of the Kunlun elders, Elder Yuan Zhao was a little embarrassed, but he did not speak, just sneered. After the high-level meeting, Qiu Changtian was called by Ziwei sect master. Chang Zhen, you don't have to worry about the Zhao family's affairs. The Luo family has already talked to me about this the day before yesterday. Ziwei sect master was wise and said calmly, a few waves will not cause any storms after all. Next, you'll go to Gyeongthong to take charge of the overall situation, and let Qin come to Tipchin Mountain. Qiu Changtian nodded, thinking that the Luo family actually turned against them. Yes, there is no conflict of interest between the Luo family and me that cannot be reconciled. Now I have a huge advantage in prestige within the sect. If the Luo family still can't see through this situation, it would be a strange thing. In this way, no matter how stubborn the Zhao family is, it is impossible to shake the overall situation. Alas, I really don't want to be the head at Kunlun. When the fragments of the sky-making stone are taken away, the Kisun Immortal will turn against him directly, and the successor of the head of the sect will be forced to rebel against the sect. Isn't it a big joke for Kunlun? The more you value me now, the more painful it will be for everyone in the future. But think about it carefully. Shushan and Penglai will have to go through this anyway. Wei Dongliu even rebelled against the 6 paths. Considering that everyone is embarrassed together, it's actually not bad. Qiu Changtian thought about leaving, and saw Zhao Jinghong waiting outside, saying, Master Chang Zhen, do you have time to talk? Brother Yan Hong, what advice do you have? Qiu Changtian would certainly not be stupid enough to follow him. What if I am taken to some place, and a few elders from the Zhao family come out and kill me? Now that the Zhao family is obviously doomed, I have to be careful of you guys being desperate. Seeing that Qiu Changtian had no intention of leaving, Zhao Jinghong sighed, looked around to see that there was no one around, and said in a low voice, Elder Yuan Zhao plans to set up an ambush on your way to Gyeongthong, kill you, and then pretend that it was the work of the demon cult. Qiu Changtian. No way, so ruthless. Brother Yan Hong, why are you telling me this? He asked leisurely. If this fails, the Zhao family of Guan will have no chance of survival. Zhao Jinghong looked gloomy. Even if it succeeds, how can we hide it from the Zhu family and the Ji family? I'm afraid Kunlun will be divided. How can we deal with the army of the demon cult? Master Chang Zhen, tell this to the head of Ziwei sect and ask him to ask the Immortal Kisun to take action. The Immortal is wise and powerful after all. He will definitely punish the main culprit and protect our Zhao family from this disaster, and also protect Kunlun from being hurt too badly. In fact, there are some elders in the clan who disagree with Elder Yuan Zhao's tough attitude of confrontation, and now they have been placed under house arrest by him. Hearing that an elder of the Zhao family was placed under house arrest by Yuan Zhao, Qiu Changtian immediately knew that this was probably true, and hurriedly said, You and I will go to see the head of the sect. Zhao Jinghong suddenly stepped back, shook his head and said, If I am detained by the head of the sect, Elder Yuan Zhao will naturally be suspicious. This matter is serious and cannot be changed. Take my flying sword and go over. Master, he recognizes my flying sword and will know it at a glance. After saying that, Zhao Jinghong threw away his flying sword, then took out another flying sword and quickly flew away. Qiu Changtian scanned for a moment to confirm that there was no problem with the sword or the surroundings, then picked up the flying sword and turned to walk into the headmaster's room. Chapter 755. Immortal's action takes you magic mirror. Hearing that Elder Yuan Zhao was desperate in seeing Zhao Jinghong's sword, Master Ziwei's face suddenly turned pale. I didn't expect Yuan Zhao to be so ambitious and actually plotted such a treasonous thing. Don't worry, I will ask the Immortals to come forward. Master, this matter involves Immortals, we must be cautious. Qiu Changtian pondered and said, If this fact is a set up by the Zhao family to frame me, is it possible? Yan Hong's flying sword is here as evidence. Even if you argue later that it was stolen by you, it is too far-fetched. Master Ziwei judged. Besides, I know Yan Hong's temperament. Although he is arrogant and unwilling to be inferior to others, he is willing to consider the overall situation after all. He is completely different from an arrogant thief like Yuan Zhao. Don't go out before I come back. Forget it. Come with me. In order to prevent complications, Master Ziwei simply activated the Qifengguan sword, and the sword-like wrapped Qiu Changtian together, and went directly to Kunlun. Qiu Changtian was really extravagant this time, using the Qifengguan sword, a super powerful 11th level flying sword, to travel 1,000 miles of journey, and they arrived in a flash. Kunlun Mountain, Xian Men Peak. After listening to the cold story of Ziwi's sect master, Kisun Immortal also sighed. Brothers quarrel, husbands and wives turn against each other. This is the case in Shushan, and Kunlun is no exception. I already know about this. Chang'an, you can go to Gyeongthong from Tipchin Mountain as planned. With the guarantee of Kisun Immortal, Ziwi's sect master and Kyo Chang'an also felt relieved. Riding on the master's Chifengguang sword, they were specially sent back to Tipchin Mountain. Before leaving, Kyo Chang'an found Zhu Yingyan and told him, "Junior sister, I will go to Gyeongthong to preside over the recovery work. You must be careful to keep a balance in Tipchin Mountain. On the one hand, you must not embarrass cunning, and on the other hand, you must not force the demon cult too much. This is not a life and death war, nor can it be. You should understand, right? That's natural." Zhu Yingyan also told him in return, "Senior brother, you have been in the limelight in Tipchin Mountain recently, and I am afraid that you have become a thorn in the eyes and flesh of the demon cult. When you arrive in Gyeongthong later, remember not to charge into battle at every turn. No matter how promising a Jinnan Shenron is, he cannot withstand the siege of 2 or 3 Yuning elders. Senior brother should understand, right? That's natural." Kyo Chang'an didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Are you playing a pair with me? But since junior sister is so energetic, I think there must be no problem." Thinking of this, Kyo Chang'an hugged Zhu Yingyan tightly and kissed her again. Only then did he ignore junior sister's shyness, anger and slapping, and turned around to fly away on his sword. Speaking of flying swords, in fact, everyone's flying sword is different, so the sword light of flying swords is also different. For example, the Chifengguang sword of Ziwi's sect leader is a faint sword light that is almost transparent. For example, Kyo Chang'an's Tianyuan Yeki sword is a bright sword light like a white silk thread. Flying the sword to Gyeongthong, Kyo Chang'an turned on the scanning mode, thinking that he didn't know where Yuan Zhao was going to ambush me. Although Kisun Immortal has already made a promise, Kyo Chang'an naturally would not pin all his hopes on Kisun Immortal. In case something goes wrong with this Immortal, of course I still have to teleport and escape directly. When we reached a canyon, the locals called it Shifo Gorge. It is said that there are a large number of stone Buddha carvings at the bottom of the valley, embedded in the cliff wall, and it is unknown when and who built it. Kyo Chang'an was about to move forward, when suddenly he saw a white light below, dazzling like the blazing sun, rushing like a meteor, and shooting straight at him. At that moment, Kyo Chang'an quickly made a judgment. I can't stop it, I must dodge. He immediately moved the sword light to move sideways, but saw a big hand appear above him and quickly grabbed him. Although the hand seemed small, it gave people a feeling of being piercing through the sky and earth and being unable to escape. I think Sun Wukong must have felt the same despair when facing the 5-finger mountain of Tathagata Buddha. Kyo Chang'an screamed in his heart that his life was over. He was about to charge in to teleport, but he saw the world spinning and was released from the sleeve of Kisun Immortal again. Oh, it was the magic power of the Immortal, so it's okay. Kyo Chang'an was just calm after the shock, but his face was calm and he bowed his hands and saluted. "Thank you for saving me, Immortal." Kisun Immortal did not answer, but continued to look at the white light below, chuckled, and threw a chess piece. The chess piece was a white chess piece. Just when it fell halfway, it suddenly turned into a mountain and smashed down. The white light below was blazing again, trying to hold up the mountain with force, as if an egg was supporting a stone. "I don't accept it." The voice of Elder Yuan Zhao came from below. From the sound of his voice, it seemed that his true essence was exhausted and his danton was dry, which made people feel that he was shouting hoarsely. Zhu, Jie, Luo, and Zhao, the rotation of the 4 families is a theorem. Our Zhao family has been preparing for so many years. Just because this kid suddenly appeared, we have to give up all the resources. Where is justice and retribution? Nonsense. Immortal Kisun sneered and shouted, "The head of Kunlun is a place for people with virtue. How can we allow people like you who are blinded by greed to plot? If Yunhong hadn't reported the news in time, I don't think your Yuan Zhao family would have continued to exist." There was silence in the canyon below, and then a desperate laugh was heard. So that's it. Zhao Jinghong, you did a good job, Immortal Kisun. This matter was done arbitrarily by me, Yuan Zhao, and I did it alone. Don't implicate other people in our Zhao family, otherwise I will be reduced to ashes, and I will laugh at you in the dark void. The Immortal Kisun was full of annoyance, and before he could finish, he threw another black dot, which turned into a mighty river of 100 miles, and immediately overwhelmed the defense of Elder Yuan Zhao. Qiu Changtian was watching from the side, and he was horrified, thinking that this was the true strength of the immortal after he got angry. Although he had seen the fight between the immortals from a distance after the last time the Golden Palace secret realm ended, now watching it up close, he still felt powerless to resist. A hand raises a mounting, a footsteps a sea. The Shifo Gorge below had been completely filled with mountains and seas. The immortal Kisan reached out again and caught a round silver mirror, handed it to Qiu Changtian and said, "The Texu illusion mirror of the Guanzhou family was used by him to directly drive and kill people. It was really a waste of money. You can take it and play with it, and use this as a warning to the Zhao family. Thank you for the treasure, immortal." Qiu Changtian saluted sincerely and took the Texu illusion realm, thinking, why did I seem to have seen this thing before? Oh, is it the real body of Arjun? What is the Texu illusion mirror? It's just a mirror that was forged to imitate me. Kunlun mirror said disdainfully, it has neither the power of time and space nor the power of divine movement. It can only focus light and dazzle other people's minds. You Kunlun immortals are really stingy. Is this mirror useless? Qiu Changtian asked in surprise. It's not that it's useless, it's just that its use is not that great. Kunlun mirror said casually, you can keep it for now. Chapter 756. You will definitely suffer the consequences. With the killing of Elder Yuanzhao by the immortal Kisan, the differences among the top leaders of Kunlun were quickly settled. Qiu Changtian came to Gyeongthong, but found that the situation was not optimistic. Not only were the major mines and medicine gardens that had been recovered recaptured by the demon cult, but the occupied area also showed signs of expansion. It was obvious that the defenders of Kunlun here could no longer hold on. You are worthy of it, Wei Dongliu. What a terrible opponent. No wonder the head of Ziwei hurriedly asked me to put down the affairs of Tipchin Mountain and quickly run back to Gyeongthong to take charge of the overall situation. If I don't come back, maybe the whole Gyeongthong will change hands. Arriving at the camp set up by Kunlun and Kinlang, Qiu Changtian immediately began to design a counterattack plan. Of course, before the counterattack, we must first confirm the dynamics of the demon cult. As the saying goes, knowing yourself and the enemy, you can fight 100 battles without danger. Jin, read the file Wei Dongliu. I knew it, Kunlun Jin secretly complained and silently read the file for this willful host. Point 4. Zongtai Peak, Tongshuan Gate. Identity of the character. Wei Dongliu. The template of Mirror Flower and Water Moon is overwritten, and he is traveling through time and space. When he arrived at Zongtai Peak, Wei Dongliu began to calculate the time. At this point in time, the surprise attack troops of the Guanzhou family were on their way to Beiman Mountain. Zhao Jinghong had not stopped his horse from the brink of the cliff, and Elder Yuanzhao had not jumped over the wall in desperation. Even most of the Kunlun monks were still immersed in the beautiful dream of a quick victory over the demon cult, and had no idea what this war would turn into next. Now the Enkidu is ambushed in Beiman Mountain and is about to hit Kunlun head-on, which directly led to the direct destruction of the prestige of the Guanzhou family and cleared the obstacles for Qiu Changtian's future. Of course, this cannot be attributed to someone's leaking of secrets. Wei Dongliu thought to himself that even if there was no Qiu Changtian as a trumpet, it would be easy for him to see through Kunlun's actions and intentions. It was just an obvious flaw. How could it be considered a leak? Next, Qiu Changtian should propose a strategy of suppressing Tipchin Mountain and fighting on two fronts. Once his trumpet goes to Tipchin Mountain, Wei Dongliu can start to show his strength in Gyeongthong without worrying about facing Qiu Changtian head-on. He was planning with great pride, and suddenly heard Guo coming to report that Lianshan Shenren from Yinggido was visiting. Lianshan is the Taoist name of Wen Yang after he formed the pill. This Miss Wen came to visit suddenly, and it seems that there is a result in Yinggido. Sure enough, Jianglin and Wen Yang walked in with their arms around each other, talking and laughing. Today, Jiangli tied her long hair behind her head, adding a bit of heroism to her charm. Wen Yang kept her long hair in a refreshing shawl, giving people a long-lost playful and cute temperament in this world where most women don't cut their hair. Sure enough, only the women of my Jirizhou have distinct personalities. What outdated styles are there in a Changzhou? All of them have long straight black hair, and there is not even one who can do hair. Doorway, great news. Wen Yang said with a hearty smile, Kunlun Taiping sect really organized a large group of people to raid our market north of Beimang Mountain as you said, but we discovered their whereabouts in advance and dealt a heavy blow to them. Oh. Wei Dongliu responded with an indifferent expression. My husband doesn't seem to be very happy. Jiangli asked curiously. She was not being mysterious. She could clearly sense that Wei Donglio didn't feel much surprise and happiness at this moment, as if this advanced prediction and heavy blow to Kunlun was just a trivial matter. It was already within my expectations, so there's nothing strange about it. Wei Donglio shook his head. The two girls looked at each other for a moment, and Wen Yang smiled and said, "Then may I ask what will Kunlun do next, Master Wei, who has a plan for everything?" "Well..." Wei Donglio hesitated for a moment, and then replied, "We plan to use Tipchen Mountain as a springboard to cut off the connection between Kunlun and Yonzthong. Given the geographical location, Kunlun cannot fail to anticipate this. If I were Qiu Chang Tian, I would definitely offer a two-pronged strategy. On the one hand, continue to recover Yonzthong, and on the other hand, send troops to Tipchen Mountain to move the front line of the battlefield forward, thereby blocking the threat of Tipchen Mountain. If that's the case, that's great." Wen Yang was immediately overjoyed. "Master Wei, the Shirdao recently spread rumors that they would raise the price, otherwise they would withdraw from this alliance." Wei Donglio said, narrowing his eyes unkindly. The so-called spreading rumors was actually just an excuse for the spy. The Ingido planted spies inside the Shirdao. Through intelligence gathering, they learned that the Shirdao believed that the geographical location of Tipchen Mountain was too important to the Demon Do, so they wanted to raise the corresponding asking price. Although most of the price was paid by the Ingido, after all, the Shirdao took more, so the Mortal Do naturally took less. Besides, what does it mean to quit the group without raising the price? Do you think my alliance with Lord Wei is a book club where you can come and go as you please? You must be severely punished." "Humph." Wei Donglio sneered, "The Shirdao overestimates its own strength. When the Kunlun army approaches, it will surely kill itself." Wen Yang and Jiangling both clapped their hands in agreement. After leaving the clan leader's residence, Wen Yang showed a worried look and said to Jiangli secretly, "How sure are you that Brother Wei is about what he predicted this time?" "Huh?" Which Jiang asked curiously. "Brother Wen, my husband is in there. Why don't you ask him just now, but ask me now? If I ask him directly, he will think I doubt his judgment." Wen Yang smiled dryly and sighed, "The Shirdao is going too far. They clearly agreed to it at the previous Six-Day meeting. How can they go back on their word when the time comes? If what Alliance Leader Wei said is true, and Kunlun really sends troops to suppress Tipchen Mountain, then it will not be us who need help from the Shirdao, but the Shirdao who needs help from us. But can this really happen? Looking at past history, Kunlun usually relies on rigid defense to deal with external attacks. In addition, this surprise attack failed and they suffered heavy losses. To say that they will continue to take the initiative to attack, even if I copy and paste the original words back, I may not be able to convince your excellency." "Don't worry, friend Wen." Jiangli smiled secretly and said, "Just say it's my husband's judgment. Anyway, as long as Shirdao really makes a public statement and presses aggressively, then Yingido and Mortal Do will definitely join hands to suppress it." "That's true." Wen Yang muttered a few words in a low voice, and then quickly said goodbye and left. Not long after, the Six Paths Alliance meeting was held again. Master Mokong from Shirdao suddenly dropped a bombshell at the meeting. Since Tipchen Mountain is close to the front line to deal with Kunlun, if the demon cult wants to borrow Tipchen Mountain to send troops, it needs to double the benefits originally paid to Shirdao. Chapter 757. Savage and rude Shira Road. Our Tipchen Mountain is close to the Kunlun front line, and the risk is too great. Master Mokong said with a frown, "There have been many complaints in the sect since we agreed to cooperate with you. You must know that the business power of my Shirdao is concentrated on the plateau. Even if the Yonzthong area falls into the hands of the Six Paths, it will not benefit my Shirdao at all." "Excuse me, senior." Wen Yang interrupted him unceremoniously, "The remuneration we discussed with your sect before is divided into two types. One is the materials delivered in 2 batches, including spirit stones, spirit herbs, spirit objects, etc. The other is the ownership of some resource points on the west side of the Qinglang Mountains. Since Shirdao can get benefits on the west side of the Qinglang Mountains, why do you say that you get nothing? I'm not talented, please help me solve this doubt." Master Mokong was interrupted by her, and was annoyed in his heart, but this was the proud disciple of Venerable Baigyu after all, and it was not easy to offend him in person, so he could only say rudely, "If we talk about the benefits of Shirdao are not even a drop in the bucket compared to your sect, but most of the risks have to be borne by my sect. How can we convince the public?" He quickly cast his eyes around, and heard Xiao, the leader of Dong Huangdo, said indifferently, "So, it makes some sense." Wei Donglio watched coldly, thinking that this Jielong master is really busy, running between the human world and the Donghuan world. Isn't it said that the boundary gate connecting the Donghuan world and the human world was sealed by the fire of the Tianxinmei sword by Longhu's grandfather? So how did Xiao get through it? Wait, if I remember correctly, Longhu's aunt Hu Shanjun seems to have a good relationship with Xiao. Oh, the niece route, right. It turns out that people can't pass, monsters can't pass, but nieces are hard to stop. Great, senior. You're really good. Wei Dongli was thinking about it, and the dispute between Wen Yang and Master Mokong gradually entered a white-hot state. I don't understand. I beg you to enlighten me, Master. Wen Yang suppressed his anger and said coldly, the Shirdaro said that the risk is too great, but I looked at the troop structure of each sect. The number of troops sent by the Shirdaro is not even in the top 3. Where is the risk? If it is just too close to Kunlun, it is considered a risk. Then Tichin Mountain has always been sandwiched between Kunlun and Shushan, and it is still intact today. Doesn't it mean that the so-called risk is just speculation? Master Li Ganchen is too naive. Master Mokong laughed. It is precisely because we are sandwiched between Kunlun and Shushan that we have to be trembling with fear and treading on thin ice. If any random person comes and says he wants to go to war, and our Shirdado follows suit, I'm afraid that our Taoism will have ceased to exist long ago. When he said any random person, it was unclear whether he was scolding Wen Yang or someone who came up with the strategic idea, so that Wei Donliu couldn't bear it anymore and asked with a sneer, does the Shirdado want to withdraw from the siege of Kunlun? It has not been decided yet. Master Mokong said cunningly, if the subsequent price negotiation is suitable, it is not impossible for us in Tichin Mountain to be the vanguard of the 6 paths and fight Kunlun with all our strength. But if it is based on the original conditions, then my sect is willing but unable to do it. I see. Wei Dongli was not angry, but just laughed. Then if Kunlun takes the initiative to attack Shuri Path, we will send people to Tichin Mountain to help. Will it not be considered that your sect is taking risks? Of course. Master Mokong disagreed, but Kunlun Tai King sect has always been conservative and rigid. How could they take the initiative to attack Tichin Mountain? The most is to be like Shushan, and hold a hunting meeting with my sect near the plateau, and the cultivators of both sides will fight each other. Suddenly he reacted quickly and laughed sarcastically. Alliance Master Wei is really calculating. This so-called assistance naturally requires request for help before there is assistance. If our Shirdado had not asked for help from you, Alliance Leader Wei could not have sent troops to our Tichin Mountain under the guise of assistance. Otherwise, if you come without asking, you're an evil guest, and our Shirdado naturally cannot tolerate it. Okay. Wei Dongli stood up, then I will wait for the senior to come and ask for help in person. After leaving a harsh word coldly, he stood up and left the main hall. It was not that he was angry with Master Mokong, but he really couldn't hold back his smile. As soon as Wei Donliu left, the meeting site immediately became noisy. The first person to be dumbfounded was the leader of the Invaluable, Fushi. He originally wanted Wen Yang to play that good cop and explore where the bottom line of Shirdado was. If the bottom line of the asking price is still appropriate, then he will come out to play that good cop and agree to it. After all, military affairs should be based on the overall situation, and you can't get angry with your allies because of some minor disagreements. But who could have thought that Master Mokong would suddenly mock Wei Dongliu? Now that the leader of the Fanxingdao sect has left, the meeting can no longer be discussed. No matter what the results of the subsequent discussions are, the Fanxingdao will definitely not admit it. After thinking about it, Master Fixie could only sigh and let Wen Yang quickly use the beauty trap to persuade the leader Wei who left in anger to come back. Master Mokong was also a little embarrassed. He originally wanted to show a tough attitude in order to increase the subsequent asking price, so he deliberately angered Wen Yang, but he didn't pay attention to scolding Wei Dongliu as well. Now that he reacted, the other party had already left with a cold face, and Master Mokong had no choice but to sit back in his original position, saying nothing, and putting on a calm posture. Humph, it's just a Jindan Junior, relying on the respect of the Bloodsea ancestor. You dare to show off with us, the Evening Masters? Thinking of this, Master Mokong sneered in his heart and looked at Master Fixie opposite. In his opinion, although Wei Dongliu was the leader, the real decision was still made by the Invaluable. When the head of Fixie saw the look from Master Mokong, how could he not understand the little thoughts of this monk? He coughed and said, Leader Wei left in a hurry and has not yet told everyone about the overall harvest in the early part of this month. Let me tell you about it. As soon as the topic of dividing the spoils was mentioned, all the monks immediately became energetic, and the originally tense and stiff atmosphere quickly eased. Wei Dongliu left the main hall and took a walk outside to dispel the strange emotions in his heart. It can only be said that under the leadership of Kyo Chang Tian, Kunlun's tactical awareness and strategic vision have been greatly improved, but the Shirodao is still stuck in the old-fashioned concepts of the old times, and it is normal that they did not expect Kunlun to attack. However, this old ghost dared to mock him, and it was obvious that he did not take him, the leader, seriously. If he could not establish his prestige with the Shirodao this time, how could the Donghuangdao, the Inglidao, the Tianmodao, etc. be willing to obey in the future? How can I, the leader of the Six Paths, do it smoothly? We still have to wait for Chan Zhengzhenren to beat up Shirodao, and then we can make some plans. Just thinking about this, a fragrant breeze suddenly blew in my face, and it was Wen Yang who rushed up from behind. "Wei, why did you leave early?" She pulled Wei Dongliu's arm and persuaded him softly. "Now we're at the home ground of Fanxingdao. If the host is angry and leaves, how can we guests sit safely? Guests can be divided into good guests and bad guests." Wei Dongliu sneered. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 758. Invite Leader Wei back. Wei Dongliu was a little embarrassed, but he didn't know that Wen Yang was cursing in his heart. Of course, he wasn't cursing fellow Daoist Wei, but the great master of Shirodao, Master Mokong, and the master of Yinglidao, Figzi, who ordered him around at will. It was obviously that foreign monk who was mean and offended the great leader Wei, so why should I repair the relationship? However, Wei Dongliu left decisively without giving Master Mokong any face, which made Wen Yang, whose anger value was almost full of the time, secretly happy. Therefore, she just continued to pull Wei Dongliu's arm and gently persuaded him. It is not surprising that Shirodao has lived in the frontier for a long time and is rude and barbaric. Now that the Six Paths have gathered in the hall to discuss matters, even if Master Mokong is rude, fellow Daoist Wei, as the leader of the alliance, should forgive his mistakes and don't bother with him so much. Humph. Wei Dongliu put on a posture and said indifferently, "It's not that I don't know the importance of things, but I am ashamed to work in the same hall with such ignorant and vulgar things." Wen Yang could see that he was putting on airs, so he could only move closer helplessly and began to use the beauty trick, laughing delicately. It is precisely because Shirodao does not know what is good for us that when Kunlun really perceived his Tipchen mountain as you expected, we can join forces to severely control it, right? As soon as he got closer, Wei Dongliu smelled a faint fragrance of exotic flowers and plants on her body. It turned out that Wen Yang was not only used to wearing women's clothes, but now he even started to spray perfume. Outrageous. Where is the brother Wen I knew before? Wake up, your soul was originally a male. In that case. Wei Dongliu suppressed his mind and sighed, "Then I will, what are you two doing?" A voice suddenly sounded outside. The two turned their heads at the same time and saw Jiangli standing at the gate of the courtyard, looking at them with an unfriendly look and a smile. Wen Yang immediately stepped back half a step, distanced himself from Wei Dongliu, and said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Jiang, you are here at the right time, please help me persuade the leader Wei." Just now when we were discussing the matter, the demon of Shirodao, Mokong, spoke wildly and offended the leader Wei. Now I am persuading him. Jiangli narrowed his eyes, used the heavenly demon method to secretly scan the other party's body, and combined with the content of his sister's previous report, he confirmed that what Wen Yang said should be the truth. Of course, there is also the intention to seduce Wei Dongliu, but it is not because of love, but simply wanting to persuade him back. Thinking of this, Miss Tianmo put away her fangs. You know, although she is not bound by the etiquette of the human race, and does not forbid Wei Dongliu to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, the premise is that he must fulfill his husband's obligations, inform her in advance and obtain consent. If Wei Dongliu really met with Wen Yang here without telling her, it would exceed the affection between husband and wife, and Jiangli did not intend to continue playing with him like this. First, eat Wen Yang clean, then destroy Wei Dongliu's skin, capture his soul, and take him to the great free heaven to train him well, until he becomes a servant soul that completely obeys her orders, and then take him around to play with him. Well, this seems to be not bad. But after thinking about it carefully, Jiangli would rather Wei Dongliu didn't know her identity as a demon, so she smiled and said, "I thought it was a big deal. My husband, it's just a bull donkey talking nonsense, why bother with him? My wife doesn't know." Wei Dongliu sneered, "As the leader of the 6 Paths, how can I allow anyone to offend me easily? Otherwise, where is the dignity of the leader? It's just that Master Mokong is the great master of the sure path, and I don't want to make enemies with my allies. If it was someone else, I would have skinned him, pulled out his tendons, and taken his soul. The second half of the sentence was what Jing the demon girl liked to hear, so she laughed and said, "Good idea. However, it is true that my husband has lost face from that monk, but if he leaves for too long, it will still damage the face of the six paths. Since fellow Daoist Win has also come to negotiate on behalf of the Ingi path, even if my husband ignores the Shura path, he should still look at the face of the Ingi path and go back to talk about it first." Jiang Lin is indeed a demon. He immediately understood the real reason why Wei Dongliu left the scene. As the leader of the six paths, Master Mokong dared to disrespect me. I certainly cannot swallow my anger, otherwise the leader's dignity will be lost. But the Jindan realm cannot beat the Yining realm, and Master Mokong is the great master of the Shirodo, so he can't punish him directly, so he can only leave decisively and give him a slap in the face. As long as the Engido persuades and acts as a peacemaker, Wei Dongliu will naturally go back. In the eyes of the people present, even if the Engido still fully supports Wei Dongliu, the prestige of the leader can be repaired to some extent. If it wasn't Wen Yang who persuaded him, but the head of Xi came to invite him personally, why would Wei Dongliu still have to put on airs? Just go back directly, okay? Wen Yang also understood the meaning of the song and immediately smiled and said, "Alliance Master Wei, our Xi sect master has also said that this meeting cannot be held without you. He repeatedly told me to invite you back. Daoist friend, please give me this favor." Wei Dongliu snorted coldly, then he turned around and walked back leisurely with his hands behind his back. When he returned to the main hall, he found that all the people from the various sects who attended the meeting were sitting in their seats. Seeing that Alliance Master Wei had finally returned, they all showed joy. The reason was simple. There were two types of battlefield gains this time. One was how many resource points were occupied, and the other was how many resources were plundered. Since these resource points had been agreed in advance and would all be handed over to the Ingido for management after the war, the Xi sect master was most concerned about the former, while the other sects were too far away from the Gyeongthong area, so they were more concerned about the latter, that is, how much money everyone could get. Master Xi just talked a lot, saying how many mines, medicinal gardens, and gardens have been taken. Don't you want to know about these? When Ji and Modo asked about the specific amount of harvest, it was Master Xi's turn to be speechless. Wei Dongliu decided the tactical command, and Wei Dongliu was also responsible for the post-war mining. The Ingido was only responsible for providing people and money, and then regularly confirming the results of the war. For areas that were not in the interests of the Ingido, Master Xi would not ask so much. After the two sides communicated in the hall, they found that they still had to wait for Wei Dongliu to come back, otherwise everyone had no idea about the harvest so far. How could that work? Wei Dongliu returned to the hall and was too lazy to pay attention to the face of Master Mokong of Shirodo. He just took a big step back to the position of leader, and then briefly explained the progress of the war. Hearing that most of Gyeongthong fell into the hands of the Six Daos, and hearing the specific figures of plundering resources, the various sects were overjoyed. Even if the truce with Kunlun started today, all the gains so far were no less than the benefits of the previous siege of Penglai. Swallow these benefits, and then go back to incubate for a few hundred years. The sect's strength will inevitably usher in a new wave of strong growth. In short, Wei Dongliu concluded, looking around at everyone, to continue to expand the benefits, this battle must continue. Do you have any objections? No. The Heavenly Demon sect, the In-Ghost sect, the Eastern Emperor sect, etc. All responded. As for the Master Mokong of the Shura sect, he naturally would not speak out again to offend so many sects, but remained silent and sneered. Chapter 759. Which Jing's sudden idea. Although under the temptation of interests, the atmosphere on the scene was very warm, as if they were going to attack Kunlun in the next second. In fact, the Shura Mokong Shangrin didn't buy it at all. He just sneered and said nothing throughout the whole process. He just waited to watch everyone's performance, and then went back to Shirodo, and continued to wait for the Ingido to make an offer. It's nothing more than to remain unchanged in the face of changes. Relying on the unique location of Tipchin Mountain, they have to bite a piece of meat from the Six Dao Alliance. If it weren't for Wei Dongliu's ingenious calculations and foresight, maybe he would have to agree to it. After all, he has to take the overall situation into consideration, and he can only bear this anger. What a pity, didn't expect it, Shirodo. I'm waiting for you to come to me pitifully for help, ha 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 ha. Wei Dongliu laughed wildly in his heart. His face was calm and composed, and he continued to arrange the Yunzthong strategy. According to the calculated time, now that the defeated Kunlun surprise attack team has returned to Kunlun, Elder Yuan Zhao should have begun to forcibly clean up the ground. Cleaning the ground is cleaning the ground, and everyone is not a fool. The decline of the prestige of the Yuan Zhao family is inevitable. In contrast, Qiu Changtian's voice has increased greatly, and the two-line strategy of sending troops to Tipchen Mountain has been passed. As Qiu Changtian's focus shifted to Tipchen Mountain, Wei Dongliu naturally had to show his skills in Yunzthong. What is kings do not meet kings? This is what it means. Like before in the White Bone Temple, Wei Qiu played two roles and fought each other, but he never wanted to experience it again. After a few days, Wen Yang came to visit again and was secretly led into the back hall by Jiangli. Alliance Master Wei, fellow Daoist Jiang. She said solemnly, our insider in Kunlun was caught, but before he was caught, he sent back a very interesting piece of information. It is said that Kunlun is now in internal strife. The current head wants to pass the next position to the real person Chan Zhen, but the Zhao family of Yuan was determined to get the successor to the head, so they started a confrontation with the Zhu family behind the real person Chan Zhen. The previous surprise attack on Beiman Mountain was proposed by the Zhao family of Yuan. The reason is that the real person Chan Zhen advocated defending Yunzthong, and the Zhao family did the opposite and asked for a surprise attack. I see. Wei Dongliu showed an expression of sure enough, just as I expected, the internal strife in Kunlun is really interesting. Jiangli secretly watched him from the side, and realized that her husband was not surprised by this, as if he had already determined it, and she couldn't help but mutter in her heart. Could it be that my husband also hid from me and set up a secret line of Fanxingduo inside Kunlun? Humph. Normally, all the affairs of the sect are left to me to handle. Now that I have become the leader of the Six Paths, I have become more proactive in doing things. However, when Yang said worriedly, Alliance Leader Wei, this Chan Zhen originally advocated defending Yunzthong. Now that the surprise attack of the Zhao family in Yuan has failed, Chan Zhen's voice in the faction will certainly increase greatly. Will Kunlun send troops to Tipchen Mountain? Wei Dongliu smiled slightly and said calmly, Chan Zhen is not a person with old-fashioned ideas. The reason why he proposed to defend Yunzthong before was simply because there was no other way. The Zhao family in Yuan had a wild idea and proposed a surprise attack, and you all saw the outcome. But the location of Tipchen Mountain is here, and Chan Zhen will never remain indifferent. Defending Yunzthong is not conservative, and attacking Tipchen Mountain is not radical. They are all limited by the times and have no choice. I see. When Yang listened thoughtfully, and smiled again, it feels like fellow Daoist Wei and Chan Zhen are quite like wise men calculating against each other. They are combining the time, place, and various intelligence to predict each other's thinking and decisions. HMPH. Jiangli snorted and said, I think that Chan Zhen's Henren has been tripped up inside Kunlun before he became the head of Kunlun. He is much worse than my husband. After saying that, she quietly looked at Wei Dongliu's expression. Wei Dongliu had no expression. Logically speaking, the husband should be happy when his wife defends him in front of outsiders. But in such a matter of stepping on one and praising another, both sides are his own trumpet, so it is difficult for Wei Dongliu to have any reaction, just indifferent. In Wen Yang's eyes, this indifference naturally became a proof of the calmness of the great leader Wei. But in the eyes of Madame Jiang, it was a bit weird. She always had a subtle premonition that her husband Wei Motao seemed to know Chan Zhen's Henren very well. Thinking carefully and deeply about the various predictions about Kunlun before, they were all predictions of Chan Zhen's Henren's thinking and decision-making. Could it be that my husband planted spies around Chan Zhen's Henren? Thinking carefully, it seems that this is the only possibility. When Yang bought a reassurance pill from Wei Dongliu, and left with peace of mind after taking it, she wanted to tell the Fixie sect master and the White Bone Venerable about Wei Dongliu's judgment, so as to adjust the next action of the Engido. Jiangli was leaving, and soon turned to another back hall, waving his hand to call his sister. I have a task for you. She said leisurely, I want all the information about the Kunlun Tai King sect's Chan Zhen's Henren, including his name, where he originally lived, his personality, and his interpersonal relationships. Find out everything for me. A few days later, Jiang Monu, who got the corresponding information, began to study it carefully. Chan Zhen's Henren's original name was Qiu Changtian. Although his origin was not as completely untraceable as Wei Dongliu's, there was actually nothing to say. He came from a desert border village called Yunzhou outside the Great Wall. In terms of personality, he is at the opposite end of the spectrum from Wei Dongliu. It is said that before Qiu Changtian formed his elixir, although he was a disciple of the headmaster with a noble status, he often took out to disciples to do various tasks, and he did not receive any extra compensation. He was known as the chief Qiu who is eager to help others and is kind to others. On the other hand, Wei Langao, who even asked his wife to help him worry about his apprentice, suddenly made Jiangmonu feel inexplicably depressed. Because of his clear mind, Qiu Changtian was chosen by the Zhu family of Tianan early on, and married that phoenix fairy Zhu Yingluyan before he formed his elixir. Thinking of Zhu Yingluyan's husband's shrewdness and ability, and thinking of her own husband who never did anything by himself, Jiangmonu became more and more unhappy, and her impression of Zhu Yingluyan also dropped sharply. The so-called jealousy arose from the bottom of her heart, and soon turned into nourishment for the great freedom heavenly demon. In the final analysis, although the heavenly demon likes to chase emotions, it often cannot produce joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. After spending a long time with Wei Dongliu, Jianglian felt that he seemed to be more and more like a person. Continuing to read the information, Jianglian realized that although Chan Zhengzhenren now has a wide range of social contracts, he does not have that kind of close friends. Including when he was the chief disciple, he taught on behalf of the master, and after the Damjin, he basically stopped talking about it. The only person who has been in contact with him for a long time, and even spends time with him day and night, is his Taoist partner Zhu Yingluyan. Could it be that this traitor is? No, what am I thinking? However, Zhu Yingluyan is just a 7 of his exquisite mind, but he is not as clear-minded as Qiu Changtian, and is almost completely unafraid of the attacks of the demons. If I let my sister eat Zhu Yingluyan, wouldn't I be able to keep a monitor on Qiu Changtian? Chapter 760. Chief Wei's sharp comments on the situation. Kunlun sent troops to overwhelm Tiqin Mountain. As thousands of sword lights set off from Kunlun's Taimanzu, the news quickly spread throughout Shenzhou. When Jiangmonu heard the news, she came to find Wei Dongliu and pretended to be curious and asked, "Husband, that Chan Zhengzhenren really chose to attack Tiqin Mountain directly as you expected, how could you guess it?" "Didn't I say that?" Wei Dongliu's heart was instantly alert, and he said seriously, "Qiu Changtian seems to have repeatedly acted unpredictably, which is inconsistent with the style of Kunlun. In fact, it is all a matter of judging the situation and taking measures that have to be taken. Military affairs are about life and death. My wife, as the deputy leader of my Fanshindo, is completely unaware of this. This is not okay." "Oh." Jianglin immediately began to act coquettishly. "Husband has never taught me in detail, how can I know?" "Why don't you tell me? If your husband is that Chan Zhengzhenren, how would you decide after Kunlun sent troops to Tiqin Mountain?" Wei Dongliu pondered. "Want to predict Qiu Changtian's decision? That's too easy. I can predict everything correctly. Do you believe it? The problem is, even if I can predict it correctly, will it really not arouse suspicion? Think about it carefully. Even if it arouses suspicion, it will definitely not be thought of Qiu Changtian and I are the same person. At most, it will be suspected that how can Wei Dongliu always predict it? It's too evil. This is also good for me to continue to maintain my mysterious personality." Thinking of this, Wei Dongliu slowly said, "Madam, let me ask you. Why did Kunlun send troops to Tiqin Mountain?" "Because if we don't send troops to contain it, there will be a risk of being cut off from Gyeongthong." Jiangli answered fluently. Then he suddenly became a little confused. "How can I, a great and free demon, start to learn the human race's military tactics? Is it really necessary?" "That's right." Wei Dongliu said calmly, "Since it is just for containment, it is impossible to attack by force to avoid excessive casualties. Let me ask you again. Since it is just for containment and we want to avoid casualties, what will Master Chan Zheng choose?" Jiangli thought for a moment and answered tentatively, "Just surround but not attack." Wei Dongliu smiled faintly. "If we just surround but don't attack, how can we make sure it doesn't believe that Kunlun intends to attack by force? In this way, the deterrent effect will be gone. This war is not a battle of attack, but a battle of hearts and minds. Whichever sect's cultivators lose the will to fight first and are forced to withdraw from the confrontation, that side will be the loser. Battle of hearts and minds, when it comes to heart attack, which Jing immediately gets excited. That is to say, she began to try to understand the human race's military thinking, and said excitedly, "My husband means that because both sides want to avoid losses as much as possible, this war will not be a big one, but it will probably be a long one. It's like a tug of war. It seems that whoever loses his strength first will lose, but in fact, it's a competition of who lets go first. That's right. Wei Dongliu didn't know why, and suddenly he felt inexplicably uneasy. If I teach her like this, nothing will happen, right? Hey, my own wife, what can go wrong? Can she eat me up? Then my husband, who do you think will lose the will to fight first in this war? Jiangli secretly hugged Wei Dongliu's arm and asked with a smile. It's strange, the girl looks very thin and slender, but when he gets close to her, she is full of plumpness, so much so that Wei Dongliu can't control himself. He quickly calmed his mind and said calmly, is there any need to ask? Of course it's a 6 paths. Oh? Jiangli held his chin with one hand, showing a somewhat pure and innocent smile, and asked naively, is it because the 5 sects are not united? Naturally. Wei Dongliu nodded. An alliance bound together by interests is naturally destined to disband due to differences in interests. This weakness is too fatal, and it is really incomparable with Kunlun Tai King sect. But, isn't it in everyone's interest to unite to plunder Kunlun now? Jiangli continued to ask. Of course not. Wei Dongliu laughed. Although it is plundering Kunlun, the expected benefits and acceptable losses are different for each sect. If we have to estimate, the most supportive of war is definitely the Ingido. They have a very strong demand for interests and can accept higher losses and time costs, so they will definitely insist on fighting. Indeed. Jiangli nodded secretly, thinking that it was no wonder that the little bitch ran here every few days and came so frequently. Those who knew said she was gathering intelligence, and those who didn't think she was here to act as a mistress. The next is probably our Fan Xingdou. Wei Dongliu continued to talk. The actual interests are secondary, but the title of leader is too important to us. Fan Xingdou has been in disarray for a long time in that past. It has the name of a major sect but cannot exert even half of its strength, and almost everyone has suffered greatly. Now the sect has been condensed and formed in my hands, and it is about to be reshaped with the help of war. As long as we continue to win, it will bring a strong sense of pride to the monks of our sect, and these will become the motivation for them to continue fighting. I see. Jiangli thought thoughtfully, I understand. For major sects such as the Ingido and the Qianmodo, the pride of being a monk of a major sect is natural and innate, so they don't attach too much importance to these false names. But for Fan Xingdou, we have lost this sense of honor of monkeys of a major sect for too long. No wonder when I see the monks of our sect, it seems that most of them have no negative or disgusted attitude towards this war. Well, but the latter is actually mainly due to my leadership charm. Wei Dongliu said shamelessly, without proper guidance, the sect's sense of honor cannot be directly linked to cohesion. Let's not talk about this, my wife. Do you know who among the 6 paths is most likely to be abducted now? It's the Shirodo, of course. Jiangli laughed playfully. Their geographical location is not so much a springboard for us to attack Kunlun, but rather a thorn in the eyes and flesh that Kunlun must remove. The tougher Kunlun's attitude is in the future, the more the Shirodo will bear the brunt and suffer the most. In comparison, the Donghuangdu and the Qianmodo are too far away from the battlefield and have weak interests, so they are more of a fence-sitter. When the battle is going well, they will be proactive. If the dispute reaches a stalemate, they will retreat without hesitation. Husband, am I correct in this analysis? At the end, Jiangli smiled with her eyebrows curved, hugged Wei Dongliu's arms tighter, almost sinking into them, and her tone was sweet. Well, speaking of this, I also find it strange. Wei Dongliu wanted to pull his hand away but couldn't, so he could only frown slightly and said, the attitude of the heavenly demon sect in dealing with the war seems to be a little too positive. Although it's hard to say in the future, for now, it's strange that they want people to contribute and strength to contribute, ha ha ha. Jiangli joked secretly, maybe I'm also convinced by my husband's personality charm. Qiu Changtai sneered and was about to speak when he suddenly heard Wen Yang's crisp laughter from a long distance outside. Doyaway. Good news. The Shira sect can't hold on and came to ask for help. We arrived in Linhai at noon today. We had a big pot of fried glutinous rice cakes for lunch. The evaluation was that the taste was a little better than rice cakes. Then we started to organize an unload bearing march of 20 kilometers. After the march, everyone was not as tired as expected. Everyone was full of energy and high morale, full of confidence in defeating the typhoon and the will of man to conquer nature. What's even more interesting is that we received news in the evening saying that it is now confirmed that the typhoon will turn towards Japan and South Korea in the East China Sea and will not dare to land on the coast of China. It is afraid, it is afraid. Chapter 761. saving Shura Road. If the six paths don't send troops, our Shura path will not be able to hold on. Although Kumlan didn't dare to besiege Tipchin Mountain, he sent Chan Jengzhenren to drown. A first-grade golden elixir, among the same level, there is absolutely no opponent. Kill 5 people today, kill 10 people tomorrow. If the six paths can't help, Shura path will have no one left. From now on, the six paths will become 5. Although the monk sent by Master Mokong has a rough appearance, he recites the lines with ups and downs, sincere emotions, and tears. Everyone listened to it with strange expressions, thinking, could the situation in Tipchin Mountain really deteriorate to that extent? Only Wei Dongliu sat in the main seat, and was not moved by the monks crying. Others didn't know the situation in Tipchin Mountain, so how could he not know? Even if Shura path suffered heavy losses, what could it matter? Among the six paths, only Ingi, Tianmo, and mortals can fight, and the rest are just here to make up the numbers, and the hell path has not existed for a long time. Let alone the six paths becoming 5, even if they become 4 or 3, what difference would that make? If it weren't for the geographical location of Tipchin Mountain and Yulong Mountain, which threaten the flanks of Kumlan and Shushan respectively, do you think you were qualified to join the six paths? Of course, although everyone probably thought so, they still shared the same hatred and said angrily, Kumlan really doesn't have the style of a major sect. Encircling but not fighting, deliberately consuming the strength of Tipchin Mountain, too despicable. Calling yourself the leader of the righteous path, but doing such an unjust act, it's simply going to make people laugh. That being said, as for the matter of assisting the Shura path, they refused to mention it at all, just like when everyone united to fight, filled with righteous indignation, only Master Mokong was determined to get the reward. When it comes to the interests of the sect, who is not smarter than who? Do you really expect to change people's attitudes with just a few words? The foreign monk smiled carefully, and sweat was faintly visible on his forehead, mainly because Master Mokong spoke too much at the Six Paths conference, and he pulled too much hatred, so that now he can also feel that everyone is comforting him on the surface, but in fact they are all laughing at Shurado. By the way, where is Master Mokong? Wei Dongliu said faintly, didn't Master Mokong say last time? If he doesn't come here in person, it doesn't count as Shurado needing help. This, the foreign monk said carefully. Master Mokong said that the battle in Tipchin Mountain was fierce and he really couldn't get away, so he asked me to come here for help. Please forgive me, Master Wei, Hilly. Wei Dongliu laughed coldly. Ha ha ha. The other Six Paths monks also laughed jokingly and mockingly. Slapping someone in the face is really a great pleasure. It's a pity that the bull donkey Mokong is not here, and the slap in the face from a distance is still a bit worse. Now it depends on how Master Wei decides. If you want to continue fighting, Shurado will definitely be saved. But Master Mokong only sent an envoy to pass on the message, which was too insincere. If it was just like that, everyone could accept it rationally, but emotionally they felt as if something was missing. In that case, let's go to Tipchin Mountain to see if Master Mokong is really unable to get away. Wei Dongliu waved his sleeves and stood up, saying coldly, what if it is you, the envoy, who falsely conveyed the meaning and damaged Master Mokong's face? That would not be acceptable. That's right. The monks from other sects nodded immediately after hearing this. So you want to go to Tipchin Mountain to listen to Master Mokong begging for mercy in person, right? The foreign monk was also dumbfounded when he heard it, but then he thought, if Master Wei really led a large army to rescue, then wouldn't the purpose of my trip be fulfilled? As for Master Mokong being humiliated, that is not something I can stop or change. That's great. The foreign monk stood up and said, Amitabha, then I'll trouble you all. So the sects counted their men and formed a team to go to Tipchin Mountain. Since it was already decided that they would use Tipchin Mountain as a springboard to send out troops, each family was very happy. When they arrived near Tipchin Mountain, they saw Kumlan also flying flags and shining brightly, as if they had already set up a huge battle, waiting for Liudo to fall into the trap. Seeing that Kumlan had sent out so many people, Liudo was also a little scared. Is Kumlan going to play big this time? This is a big difficult. If Kumlan really turned into a mad dog and bit anyone he saw, coupled with the opponent's accumulation of thousands of years of foundation and strength, I'm afraid that Liudo will be hit hard, and even the Taoist school will be at risk of extinction. Don't panic. Wei Dongliu saw that everyone was obviously retreating, and immediately said calmly, it's just a bluff. We will just swagger in from the east side of Tipchin Mountain. See if Kumlan dares to intercept. After saying that, without waiting for everyone to respond, Wei Dongliu took the lead and flew forward. The sect master personally went out, and the other monks of the Fanxing duo naturally did not dare to fall behind, and hurriedly followed closely. Seeing Fanxing duo so brave, the Indian and Modelo had to follow him, but they deliberately fell behind Fanxing duo not far away, so that they could escape in case Kunlun turned against them. Dong Huan duo was relatively leisurely, just tracking slowly at the end, keeping a distance from Fanxing duo and others. At this time, Qiu Chang's Tian was still drowning in the desert north of Tipchen Mountain, but Kunlun naturally arranged reconnaissance in other directions. Seeing the overwhelming and ostentatious army of the demon cult rushing in, the monk in charge of reconnaissance hurriedly sent a letter with a flying sword to inform the sect, and then immediately withdrew to the main formation. The 6 sects continued to move forward, and as they got closer to Tipchen Mountain, Kunlun's interception troops still did not appear. As a result, the expressions on everyone's faces became more and more complicated and difficult to describe. Is it really as Wei Dongliu expected that Kunlun's deployment of such a battle array in Tipchen Mountain is actually just a bluff? Is Kunlun still the bloated sect that is concerned about casualties and is restrained? Thinking of this, the Indian and Modeo immediately followed, closely attached to the back of the monks of the mortal duo, and made a kind of "we are of the same blood and fight together" momentum. Dong Huan duo also quickly closed the distance, ready to wave the flag and shout for the 6 duos at any time. Tipchen Mountain seemed to have been hit by a long drought, and quickly sent foreign monks to lead everyone into Tipchen Mountain. In the main hall, Master Mokong stood in the center with an uncertain expression. The other Yuning elders had calm expressions, surrounded him and kept a distance, and deliberately left a circle of space. The returning envoy had already said that Leader Wei was willing to come to rescue Shirodado, but was very dissatisfied with Master Mokong's previous attitude, so he planned to come over and ask first whether Shirodado really intended to ask for help. Because Master Mokong had said such harsh words, and now he had caused dissatisfaction among such an important ally, the senior masters of Shirodado discussed and unanimously decided to sell Master Mokong out. To be more precise, they wanted him to receive the great Leader Wei. Master Mokong was furious, but although he was a great master, because the power of the senior masters of Shirodado was not concentrated, he had no choice when the other masters reached a consensus. He could only grind his teeth silently, thinking about how to behave later, so as to appease the other party's emotions and not be too embarrassed. Chapter 762. Everyone is gone, but you are still planning here. Tipchen Mountain, Shiro Road, the main hall of the sect. Countless shining bald heads made Wei Dongliu a little dizzy. Why do these foreign monks like to put oil on their foreheads? According to Shiro Road, applying oil is a kind of etiquette left over from ancient times, which shows the highest respect for guests. It seems that although these foreign monks and the Central Plains Buddhism have the same origin, they have now evolved into completely different cultural species. Sitting at the top of the main hall is not Wei Dongliu, the leader of the demon cult, but King Ajatasattu of Shiro Road. This is the living Buddha of Shiro Road, and his rank and realm are similar to those of the Blood Sea Ancestor and the White Bone Venerable, which is equivalent to the sect guarding Immortal of Shiro Road. It seems that the relic monk in the sect was beaten by the Changjengzhenron of Kunlun and fled with his head in his hands. This matter even alarmed the sect guarding Immortal, but Kunlun was provoking openly, and Shiro Road had no choice, so it had to ask the 6 monks to come to help. I think he probably knew that Master Mokong had defended Master Wei before, so King Ajatasattu personally came to receive Wei Dongliu, exchanged a few words with him in a pleasant manner, and called Master Mokong over to scold him. As a living Buddha, King Ajatasattu naturally knows the value of his favors, so Wei Dongliu also generously said that he didn't take it to heart at all, and the Shiro Road was an inseparable part of the 6 paths. Soon, both sides were very happy, and then began to discuss countermeasures against Kunlun outside. Although the strength of Changjengzhenron was temporarily kept secret because of the protection policy of Ziwi's sect leader, it has become known to the world after the Battle of Tipchen Mountain. The first-grade golden elixir has full true essence strength and endurance. Tianyuan Yeki sword, which is simple and crude to break the trick with force. Woilai's Hingfa, which restrains most of the evil magic. These 3 combined together to create an invincible iron triangle, with almost no flaws in the same realm. The only solution is to send out Yuning cultivators to crush the advantage of first-grade golden elixir and collapse the iron triangle, so that it is possible to defeat Changjeng. But now Kunlun's main formation is not far away. Even if Yuning elders are sent to assassinate, the probability of success is very small, unless King Ajatasattu is sent. I want to personally design and kill Changjeng. What do you think, little friend Wei? King Ajatasattu said jokingly, and suddenly sent a secret message to Wei Dongliu, asking secretly, "Damn, can you, a living Buddha, have some martial ethics?" For a moment, Wei Dongliu was almost stunned, but fortunately he tightened his expression in time and did not show too much abnormality. But King Ajatasattu was an immortal after all, so he naturally noticed his strange look and continued to explain in secret. It's not for the dignity of the sect, but this person's Jindan level is so terrifying. If we allow him to successfully form a baby in the future, he may become a major threat to our 6 paths. Wei Dongliu chose his words carefully and said, Kunlun may not have expected this situation. The old thief Kisun is around. I dare to say that the real person Chan Zheng is indeed not easy to kill. Old thief Kisun, I'm not afraid. King Ajatasattu sneered, as long as you're the real person Chan Zheng into within 30 feet of the Iron City Mountain Gate, I will activate the Formidable Truths rotation array. In this array, yin and yang, the universe, are all upside down. Even Kisun, the old thief Kisun sleeve of the universe method, is still powerless. Perhaps because he felt that the name Old Thief Kisun was very pleasant to the ear, King Ajatasattu also liked Wei Dongliu very much. There are too few young cultivators who are not afraid of the majesty of the immortals and dare to call the old thief directly. When the time comes, you will all rush forward. Even if Chan Zheng's Hinran is a first-grade golden elixir, can he still defeat so many golden elixir immortals? Wei Dongliu pondered and sneered in his heart. I thought this person could say something profound, but I didn't expect that he also wanted to pass the buck. If King Ajatasattu really intended to kill Qiu Chang Tian, why would he discuss it with Wei Dongliu, a junior? But even if he used such a shady trick to achieve his goal, he would still face the relentless targeting and pursuit of Kunling Kisun Immortal. So King Ajatasattu didn't want Shirado to take the blame alone, but wanted to drag all the 6 paths into the water. Once the formation was opened, it isolated the inside and the outside, and the 6 paths cultivators were put in, working together to surround and kill Qiu Chang Tian. How could Kisun Immortal know who the murderer was? Who should he seek revenge on? Unfortunately, although the plan is barely feasible, taking advantage of Kunlun's ignorance of the Formidable Truths rotation array, Qiu Chang Tian has now fled to Gyeongthong and is not near Tipchin Mountain at all. Your plan will fail. Thinking of this, Wei Dongliu readily agreed. In this case, if we can kill the real person Chan Zheng, we will naturally not hold back if we get rid of this big worry, but we still need to discuss this with the ancestor. That's natural. King Ajatasattu laughed immediately. In his opinion, whether it is the old ancestor of the Sea of Blood, the White Bone Venerable or the Free Ancestor, there is no reason to refuse this matter. If a single sect assassinates the real person Chan Zheng, the old thief Kisun can still carry out targeted revenge. If the 6 paths work together to plan, what can the old thief Kisun do? If the 6 paths can be uprooted, Kunlun would have done it long ago. As for the reckless retaliation, for the behemoth of the 6 paths, unless Kunlun does not want to continue to be the leader of the orthodox religion, he can only choose to swallow his anger and retaliate later. After a while, the atmosphere in the palace became more and more heated. Everyone was eager to send troops to see how powerful Chan Zheng was. King Ajatasattu looked at his allies with a smile on his face, thinking that as long as the Blood Sea ancestor nodded, he would send out a few monks from the mortal path to lure him to the Iron City Mountain during the battle. However, since this matter requires the joint participation of the 6 paths, Wei Dongliu needs to summon the 6 paths high-level officials to explain the situation and secretly select a group of confidants to rush into the 4 Truths rotating formation and surround and kill Chan Zheng. If this plan is leaked and Kunlun knows about it in advance, it will not work, so it is best to leave it for the last. The plan was announced, and then people were immediately sent out to rush forward and cut the Gordian knot. King Ajatasattu was just imagining it, when suddenly another flag bearer came to report. Kunlun Tai King sect Qingying's Hinran came to drown him. Qingying's Hinran, a second-grade golden elixir, although not as good as Chan Zheng's Hinran, can definitely be on the 6 Paths Alliance's must-kill list. However, this routine can only be used once. If it is used on the real person Qingying, how will he deal with the real person Chang'an in the future? King Ajatasattu thought of this and decided not to use this killer move. He gave Wei Dongliu a look. Wei Dongliu immediately understood and stood up and said that real person Chang'an is really brave. He thought that there was no one in the 6 paths, but now he actually let a woman come out to fight. Let me test her strength. Immediately, the elders of the Fanxing Duo laughed and said a dirty joke. After seeing the might of the Lord Alliance, the Zhu family Phoenix might divorce the real person Chang'an. Wei Dongliu's face darkened when he heard this. What do you mean I'm cheating on myself? You can shut up. Seeing that the Lord Wei had a bad look in his eyes, the elder thought that he was afraid of the Lord's wife's line roar, and quickly shut up. After marching in the rain for 2 hours, I can still code a chapter when I come back. Chapter 763. Wei Demon vs. Phoenix Fairy. Zhu Yingyan was dressed in white, standing on a sword. From a distance, she looked like a lotus emerging from the water. From a close distance, she looked like a goddess descending to the earth. She was ethereal and holy, and she was powerful without anger. In fact, her strength was indeed far behind that of the Jin and Shenron of the same realm. Before Wei Dongliu and others arrived, she had fought with Qiu Changtian for a few days. Her fire-based Taoism was extremely powerful and was not inferior to Qiu Changtian's Five Thunders orthodoxy. For cunning, in addition to the first-grade Jin and Chang'an Shenron, there was also such a powerful cultivator as the Phoenix Fairy, which was undoubtedly extremely inspiring news. But for the Six Paths, it was naturally not a good thing. Qiu Changtian had left Tiqin Mountain and headed towards the Qingliang Mountains in Yunzthong. Zhu Yingyan fought alone on the first day. Because of her desire to prove herself, her fighting spirit was currently 200% ignited. In the next battle, I must win. Suddenly, a black cloud suddenly rose from Tiqin Mountain in the distance. Wei Dongliu, with red hair and double pupils, descended in black clothes over the desert and sneered. Why is it the Phoenix Fairy in person? Where is Qiu Changtian? Why is it you? Phoenix Fairy, where is Qiu Changtian? 3 critical hits in one sentence instantly caused tons of hatred to Zhu Yingyan, so that she was too lazy to even say half a sentence to start. She directly pinched her hands together, opened her mouth slightly, and spit out blazing flames all over the sky. Great bright fire. It is said that since Zhu Yingyan started practicing, although he has been practicing Taoism diligently, his core killing moves are almost all related to fire. Now it has formed a complete combat system similar to the Five Thunders orthodox method. Great bright fire spits out endless flames and transforms the surrounding environment into a high-temperature and blazing sea of fire. The red feather 9 Phoenix fire compressed the fire essence into a very hot and thin golden line. Although it is difficult to see with the naked eye, it can easily penetrate mountains and crack rocks like a sharp blade. The fire escape 9 element can shuttle back and forth in the flames, suddenly without a sound, and it is infinitely useful when combined with the great light fire. The 9 Dolls Thunder Fire, melting gold with fire and wrapping fire with gold, is a rare Taoist method of gold and fire, and its power is enough to burn mountains and boil seas. In summary, it is large-scale burning, cutting and breaking armor, instant displacement and serial explosion, and they are extremely compatible with each other, and can easily form a combo. A set of combos came down directly, and even Qiu Changtian did not dare to take it hard, let alone Wei Dongliu who did not have the Five Thunders law. Therefore, he did not dare to be arrogant at all, and first offered up the Wangxai Bangwuxian sword and quickly urged the sword formation to be released. The demon clouds were layered, and the evil spirit was gloomy. The endless killing spirit in it, as soon as it collided with the great light fire, it was like a raging fire boiling oil, and quickly triggered an extremely fierce confrontation. The great light fire also has the ability to destroy evil and exterminate evil spirits, but even if the Tao is 1 foot higher, it is not as high as the devil. Needless to say, the rank of the Wangxai Bangwuxian sword was very high. The pure killing energy in it spread out and immediately suppressed the spreading and burning sea of light and fire. Zhu Yingyan frowned slightly, because Wei Dongliu on the opposite side almost instantly saw through her tactical weakness. Whether it is the 9 fire escapes, the red feather 9 Phoenix fire, or the 9 fighting thunder and fire technique, they are all extremely powerful when taken alone, but to perfectly integrate them, they must rely on the great light fire. The 9 fire escapes needs to rely on the great light fire with a very large range to transmit. The red feather 9 Phoenix fire is too thin and easy to be dodged, so it needs the light of the great light fire to hide. Even the 9 fighting thunder and fire technique can use the great light fire to increase its power, but Wei Motao suppressed the key hub of the great light fire with the Wangxai Bangwuxian sword, so that many subsequent moves could not be used. Be careful. Fen Lan in the Sea of Consciousness warned, this person's combat power is not at the same level as the enemies you fought before. Of course I know. Zhu Yingyan said angrily, and quickly activated the fire escape 9 numbers, teleported to the back of Wei Dongliu, and spit out another extremely thin and bright golden line. Red feather 9 Phoenix fire. Wei Dongliu did not turn around, but a thick black cloud suddenly rose behind him, like a shield to meet him. The Indemon's foul art. The golden line swept into the black cloud, and instantly shone brightly, as fierce as a fallen meteor, as dazzling as the blazing sun, swallowing up the surrounding black clouds. More black clouds continued to surge and were swallowed up by the golden line. More black clouds continued to surge. Although the red feather 9 phoenix fire was powerful, it could not withstand Wei Dongliu's too powerful demonic energy, and it was forcibly exhausted. Zhu Yingyan was immediately startled and broke out in a cold sweat, knowing that the opponent's true essence was not inferior to that of his senior brother Qiu Chang's Haiyan. But, so what? Her fighting spirit rose again, and her whole body's true essence was agitated, shooting out the 9-do thunder and fire all over the sky. Aren't you full of demonic energy? Let me see how much demonic energy you can still have. Zhu Yingyan used the squeeze tactic, and the 9-do thunder and fire covered the sky, blowing up all the remaining demonic energy at Wei Dongliu. Suddenly, a golden light, under the cover of the dazzling fire, rushed straight to Zhu Yingyan's face. It was the 100 poison gold and silkworm Gu. At the critical moment, Zhu Yingyan had already raised the sword in his hand, and the cold light of the Yujie sword flashed, and the 100 poison gold and silkworm Gu was cut off and flew out. The 100 poison gold and silkworm Gu is not easy to be attacked by swords and guns, and it is difficult to be injured by water and fire. It was hit by the immortal sword head-on, but there was no damage at all, but its ferocity became more and more intense, and the buzzing sound of the wings behind it became louder, and it attacked again from a different angle. Zhu Yingyan waved his sleeve with one hand, and a ball of flame popped out from his sleeve. It was the 9-do's thunder fire compressed by the method of Kyujiufen. The moment the shot hit the 100 poisons gold and silkworm Gu, it exploded with a bang, blowing its insect body directly out. Before the golden silkworm Gu could stabilize its body, another bolt of thunder and fire followed, hitting the parabolic insect body accurately again. A few shots of the 9-do's thunder fire were like a series of arrows that never missed, chasing the soul in a chain, and directly blew the 100 poisons gold and silkworm Gu out of the sea of fire. The latter finally managed to stabilize and flew back to Wei Dongliu, making a beeping sound of grievance. Wei Dongliu comforted the little insect for a moment, knowing that although the 100 poisons gold and silkworm Gu was ferocious, there were too few of them after all. In addition, his wife had been trained by him for a long time, and this little trick could not do anything to her. So he lowered his sleeves, spit out the Wonxai Bangjuetsu sword from it, and took a posture to ask for swordsmanship. This demon has many sinister means, and his true energy is so strong that I may not be able to deal with them perfectly. But if we just compete in sword control, even that bullying senior brother can't get the upper hand from me. Zhu Yingyan pinched the sword formula with her hands, and the Yujie sword drew an extremely fierce sword path and stabbed straight at Wei Dongliu's eyebrows. This is her answer. Chapter 764. I still let my wife go. The flames shot up to the sky, the winds rolled down to the ground, the killing aura spread out, and the sound of metal clashing was endless. The cultivators in the main formation of Kunlun looked at the fighting scene in the distance with nervous expressions. If Changzhen was fighting with the Demon King, everyone would not be so nervous. Even Changzhen might not give everyone time to be nervous, and he might kill the Wei demon on the spot as soon as he came on the field. However, King Yin had been fighting with the opposite demon for so long, let alone killing the other party, and there was no sign of gaining the upper hand. How could the Kunlun cultivators not worry? Although the cultivators below could only watch the excitement, the senior elders of Kunlun Tai King sect could certainly see the doorway here. There was nothing wrong with Zhu Yingyan's performance. Even if he did not have 90% of Qiu Chang's Haiyan's strength, he had at least 80%. The reason why the battle was deadlocked was mainly because the opposite Wei demon was really strong. There are three main reasons for its power. First, it is the extremely pure demonic energy, which is the nemesis of almost all cultivators. In order to pursue power, the 6 paths of practice often likes to add turbid air to the true essence to stimulate and attack the enemy. Because turbid air is inert, highly polluted and difficult to remove, as long as it enters the enemy's body, it can have an effect similar to that of a fierce poison. Of course, this kind of turbid air is often a double-edged sword. If the proportion is too high, it will be difficult to control, and it may even hurt the activator in turn. But for some reason, the proportion of turbid air in the Wei demon head is not 1%, 5% or 10%, but 100%, so that it is extremely strong, completely beyond the scope of turbid air, and is extremely terrifying demonic energy. The purity of this demonic energy is comparable to the immortal true energy cultivated by the 9 heavens pure and subtle entry true words. If Zhu Yingyan touches it a little, her meridians will be eroded immediately, and even most of her body's power will be affected. Therefore, she can only be extremely alert and focus more on the fire-based Taoist method to suppress and defend, so as not to let the demonic energy reach her. This invisibly involved a lot of her energy, so that she couldn't attack with all her strength. The second one was the Wonxai Banged weapon sword used by Wei Dongliu. One of the 4 swords of Jiri Zhao, its rank and power are self-evident. Zhu Yingyan used the Yujie sword to fight, and was soon forced to focus on defense. If he really went all out and fought against the Zhuepsen sword, the Yujie sword's body strength might not be able to hold up. Wei Dongliu even had the leisure to activate the Wonxai Banged Zhuepsen sword formation, forcing Zhu Yingyan to attack with the Great Light Fire to consume her true energy. The third one was naturally the 100 Poisons Golden Silkworm Gu. This vicious insect was invulnerable to swords and guns, and was difficult to be hurt by water and fire. Although there were only 3 of them, when Wei Dongliu used unpredictable methods to attack them, they could often kill them from unexpected angles, causing Zhu Yingyan to break out in a cold sweat and become extremely busy. Qin is no match for the demon. Master Ziwei made a quick judgment. If the 10,000 Immortal Sword formation is fully activated, the Great Bright Fire will definitely not be able to stop it. Master, are you saying that Demon Wei is being sympathetic? A Kunlun elder asked seriously. Master Ziwei looked at him speechlessly, coughed and said, earlier, Chang Zheng only defeated the Shurda monks but did not kill them. The other party is returning the favor. The surrounding Kunlun elders were silent for a moment, and then they all showed embarrassed, as if they were humiliated. Only defeating but not killing is not necessarily out of goodwill, but more of a way to prevent the other party from continuing to provoke or even make them desperate when they are in an advantageous position. After all, if you were at a disadvantage, you naturally can't care so much, and you just have to fight for victory by any means. In other words, this Wei demon of the Mortal Do has already thought that the Demon Do has the upper hand now, so he turned around and started to humiliate our Kunlun. Let Qin come back. Master Ziwei quickly ordered. Should we call Chang Zheng back? A Kunlun elder asked in a deep voice. This battle is still in Yunzthong. Although the victory or defeat here is important, it will not affect the overall situation. Ziwei's sect master replied, let Chang Zheng concentrate on managing Yunzthong and recover the lost territory first. From tomorrow on, it will be the Yunning elders who will go over to fight. Soon, Zhu Yingyan returned to Kunlun's main camp angrily and challenged Ziwei's sect master to a fight, saying, Master, although the Wei demon head is powerful in magic, I am not without the ability to fight. If we call off the troops halfway through the battle, won't it make the world underestimate us, Kunlun? So what? Ziwei's sect master asked indifferently. This battle is mainly to contain Tichen Mountain. As long as we can contain the demon sect from sending troops from here, what does the victory or defeat of a few battles matter? Zhu Yingyan gritted her teeth and did not answer, and could only say goodbye and leave in anger. Indeed, the victory or defeat of her contest with Wei Dongliu was meaningless to Kunlun and the demon sect. But for her, her senior brother had just left for Yunzthong, and Kunlun's winning streak was broken in her hands. How could Zhu Yingyan not feel upset? Senior Feng Lan. Zhu Yingyan returned to his residence with an embarrassed look on his face. He sat there all night and finally said slowly, I am still too weak. Feng Lan in the sea of consciousness. Don't be like this, Yingyan. If your current strength is still considered weak, then other Jindans and Ronin transformed cultivators can all commit suicide, okay? But what kind of monsters are these on the human side? It goes without saying that Qiu Chain Time's strength far exceeds the Jindan realm, so why is there another Wei Dongliu now? No wonder the ancient demon race was driven to the Eastern Empire realm by humans. How could the human race, which is full of monsters, defeat them? Well, actually, what you lack now is not the secret method. Feng Lan analyzed seriously and said, it's the strength of your own true essence. You see, Wei Dongliu suppressed your great bright fire with the 10,000 aspects absolute immortal sword formation, but if it was your husband's Five Thunders orthodox method, it might not be easily suppressed by the other party. This is the difference in the quality of true essence. If you want to seek revenge on the demon head in the future, what you have to do is not to learn more secret methods, but to work hard to improve your cultivation realm. That's right. Zhu Yingyan thought for a moment and agreed with this statement. If I can enter the OA level in advance and surpass my senior brother by one realm, even if there is still a gap in the Jindan level, I can easily suppress my senior brother. That's what I said. Feng Lan pondered for a long time and couldn't help asking, but, don't you want to defeat that Wei demon head? How can the Wei demon head be my senior brother's opponent? Zhu Yingyan disagreed. As long as I can defeat my senior brother, the demon head is nothing to worry about. Obviously, whether it was when she entered the sect or now, whether she was a young girl or a married woman, Zhu Yingyun had only one goal to pursue from the beginning to the end. Even if she had lost to Ling Yunpo, Wei Dongliu, etc., she could not change this goal. On the other side, Wei Dongliu, who did not know that he had caused trouble for Qiu Changtian's trumpet again, calmly returned to the sect hall of Shurido in Tiqing Mountain with the attitude of a winner. "Friend Wei," Kinajitasatru asked with a smile, "you fought well. But with your tyrannical strength, why didn't you kill the Phoenix Fairy on the spot?" Wei Dongliu smiled faintly and replied, "Master Changzhen only defeated your sect's cultivators but did not kill them. How can I embarrass Liu though? If we can get rid of this Phoenix Fairy with the second-grade golden elixir and get rid of a major threat for the Liudro sect, what's the harm in embarrassment?" Kinajitasatru said disapprovingly. "If you can help and stop all the elders of Kunlun's main formation, including the old thief Kisan, so that they can't come to rescue us, I will naturally kill the Phoenix Fairy," Wei Dongliu answered calmly. Kinajitasatru laughed when he heard this and put the matter aside. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 765. Execution of Senior Sister Anne. The war between Kunlun and the Six Paths began to enter a stage of strategic stalemate. On the battlefield near Tiqing Mountain, the Yingning elders fought each other every day. Although the fight was extremely fierce, there were actually few deaths. Although the Qilin Mountains were not very powerful, they became a hidden meat grinder. Many monk teams fought hand-to-hand when they were caught off guard, and then they killed each other mercilessly. The final result was often that one of the parties was completely killed. Both sides continued to lose manpower in the Gyeongthong area, but resources did not increase, which was indeed a ruthless involution. Soon, serious differences of opinion emerged on the Six Paths side. The Shura Road and the Tiqing Mountain side insisted that if they continued to fight, everyone would die, but the resource points on the Qilin side were being lost one after another, so what was the point of fighting? The Ingido naturally refused to agree. After all, the resource points were in their hands, so they claimed that if they defended for another half a year, the harvest could be multiplied several times, and they must not give up. So the problem came to the Mortal Do and the Heavenly Demon Do. If these two factions supported the ceasefire, the Ghost Do would not be able to support it alone. "Husband." Jiangli secretly hugged his arm and asked with a sweet smile, "Do you think this war should continue?" Wei Dongliu pondered for a moment, thinking that now that his prestige as the leader of the Six Paths has been initially established, and he has also led everyone to get many benefits, it is almost time to stop. Otherwise, when the subsequent rate of return continues to decrease and the damage further increases, won't it be my turn to take the blame again? He was just pondering when he suddenly heard Jiangli laughing secretly. "I also think it's better to cease fire, otherwise when Shushan is free to help Kunlun, the subsequent war situation will definitely deteriorate further." Although the Ingido still wants to persist, it's just blinded by greed. A few days ago, when Yang came to sound me out and said that the leader of Fushu was actually planning to stop, but the elders below strongly opposed it. If you, the leader, speak out, I think they will listen. So for the elders of the Ingido, their own leader's analysis of the situation is not as credible as the judgment of me, the leader of the Six Paths. Wei Dongliu smiled complacently and said casually, "What happened in Shushan? They haven't come to support Kunlun for so long. I thought they were scared by the combined power of the Six Ways." "Oh, it's nothing serious," Jiangli replied in a dark way. "It's just that the long-browed immortal went crazy and wanted to execute the only second-grade Jindan in the sect." "Really? That's really self-destructive," Wei Dongliu subconsciously agreed, and then, "Which second-grade Jindan?" His expression remained unchanged, but his heart was already in turmoil. "Jiang Shao, it seems to be called this name." Jiangli sneered and said, "The struggle for the orthodoxy is so fierce that even the second-grade Jindan can't escape. The Shushan Shanking sect is getting worse and worse." "Wei Dongliu, don't panic, this news may not be true. Senior Sister Anne is a second-grade Jindan. No matter how paranoid, stupid, ignorant, and beastly the old thief with long eyebrows is, how could he execute a second-grade Jindan sword immortal for some unfounded crime? The news must have been spread wrongly. After all, there is no mobile network in this world. News is spread by word of mouth except by flying swords and letters. It is normal for people to embellish the links. Load the file. Load the file, read the file, read the file, read the file. Arjun, send me to Shushan immediately. Finding a reason to separate from Madame Jiang, Wei Dongliu, who was worried about his wife, immediately urged Kunlun Mirror to load the file and rushed to Shushan to confirm the situation. Point 2. Shushan Shang King Sect, King Luo Peak. Character identity. Ling Yunpo. Mirror Flower Water Moon template overwritten, currently traveling through time and space. Back in Shushan, Ling Yunpo quickly controlled the sword light and rushed violently towards the Golden Summit of Imei. After returning to the Golden Palace secret realm last time, Senior Sisterin was taken away by the Discipline Hall for interrogation. There has been no news for such a long time. Could something have really happened? As the saying goes, care makes you confused. Ling Yunpo subconsciously ignored that the Shushan line had not been long. He just read too many files and had the illusion that a long time had passed. He came to the Golden Summit of Imei Mountain anxiously and hurried to ask to see the headmaster of Shushan Yujing. Soon he got a reply. The headmaster of Yujing was in the Patriarch's Hall, and asked King Feng's Henren to come in. Ling Yunpo stepped into the Patriarch's Hall, only to feel that the surroundings were quiet and peaceful, and the atmosphere seemed a little ominous. Wait, could it be that Shushan is planning to attack me now? Don't wait until I walk in. 500 swordsmen suddenly rush out from the surroundings and chop me into meat paste. Arjing. Scan. Don't be silly. Kunlun Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You are just a Jin and Zenrun now. If Shushan really wants to kill you, why don't they send a Yuning Elder to take your head directly? And there are 500 swordsmen, why don't you say that they ranged 500 immortals to ambush you? What you said makes sense, but you must be on guard against others, understand? Ling Yunpo argued with her. Anyway, just scan it for me. Kunlun Jing thought that this guy seemed to have become a frightened bird because of Senior Sisterin. Forget it, just follow his wishes. No. She scanned for a while and replied, there are no ambush swordsmen, it feels so quiet around. Shut up. Don't say the last half sentence. Ling Yunpo became more and more uneasy, and even didn't want to go in, just paced back and forth in the ancestral hall. Fortunately, he didn't have time to hesitate. Perhaps seeing that he didn't come in, the head of Yujing came out and asked with a frown. Kim Fen, what's the important matter that you want to see the headmaster? Headmaster. Ling Yunpo's eyes immediately filled with tears. He pretended to be sad and indignant and asked earnestly, what mistake did my senior sister make? If the sect must pursue the mistake, please don't target Senior Sisterin, just come after me. Senior Sister is a second-grade golden elixir, and the hope of the sect's future. How can she be detained for such a long time? If it gets out, people will laugh at her. The key point of the tone. Second-grade golden elixir. Stop. The head of Yujing sect also had a headache. This Taoist King Feng started talking nonsense, which made him frown. Your senior sister was just being interrogated in the discipline hall. How can you say that the sect is targeting her? Besides, Shushan has its own laws. Even if we're investigating the fault, how can you, a junior brother, take the blame for her? You can only say this here. I won't bother with you. If you go out and spread rumors in public, I will punish you for slandering the sect. Ling Yunpo finally breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this, but he was hesitant and continued to ask, is my senior sister really okay? She won't be executed for any crime, right? What's wrong with you? The head of Yujing sect looked at him strangely. Who told you that your senior sister is going to be executed? Besides, don't you know whether your senior sister killed her fellow disciples without permission? Or do you think that the teachers in the sect are all people who can't distinguish right from wrong and don't know the benefits and harms? The right and wrong refers to the fact that Nzisu did not kill his fellow disciples without authorization, as there is the testimony of Master Jingwei. The benefit and harm refers to the fact that Nzisu is a second-grade golden elixir, and Shushan must pay attention to protecting it. Although the head of Yujing did not say it explicitly, the meaning of his words was already very clear. Kim Fen dare not. Ling Yunpo finally felt relieved, and bowed his head again and left. Seeing Ling Yunpo as if he had been pardoned and left the ancestral hall, the head of Yujing laughed a few times, shook his head, and turned away. This Master King Fen was really worried and confused. He was actually worried that the sect would execute a second-grade golden elixir. It was really inexplicable. HMPH. The long-browed immortal walked out of the inner hall, looked at the direction where Ling Yunpo left, and said coldly, a dignified Jindan sword immortal, but because of such a love affair, he lost his way and his heart was shaken. How can this be disgraceful? The immortal is too harsh. The head of Yuzheng said with a smile, since King Feng Jinxiao and others have cultivated the questioning love flow, they naturally value love and righteousness. Let's not talk about anything else. The long-browed immortal waved his hands irritably. Let's not mention the ridiculous speculation about the execution of the second-grade Jindan. If one day, true man Jinxiao days outside, wouldn't true man King Feng immediately go crazy when he hears the bad news? On the other hand, if true man King Feng unfortunately passes away, with true man Jinxiao's stubborn temper, I'm afraid you will immediately die for love. How many resources has the sect used to train these two people, just to make them trapped in love and sacrifice themselves? You say they are loyal and righteous, but I think they are tied up and stupid. The head of Yuzheng smiled bigly. After so many years, the immortal still feels aggrieved about the fact that the 7 Killings immortal Su Jian was ambushed and seriously injured by Shirda while trying to protect his beloved daughter. Chapter 766a. Very strange development. Shushan, Criminal Law Hall. The interrogation of Jinxiao's Hunren has come to an end. With all the evidence, it can be basically determined that it was the work of the heavenly demon. The immortal Changmei, the head of Yuzheng, and the elderman of Xian Peak where the victim was located, all three of them have approved the review results of the criminal law hall and are preparing to sign and finalize the case. Zexu, dressed in a plain white linen dress, stood gracefully in the hall, silent. The immortal Changmei suddenly asked, Jinxiao, are you resentful for calling you here for questioning? This question was so easy that even Zexu knew how to respond, and replied in a low voice. The sect follows the rules, and Jinxiao has no resentment. Humph. The immortal Changmei was a little unhappy. Naturally, the immortal Changmei did not like the impression of Jinxiao's Hunren at first. The most valued disciple, the immortal Qixia, secretly fell in love with a mortal in the mortal world and gave birth to a daughter. Then, in order to protect his beloved daughter, he was surrounded and killed by the elders of Shirda but did not retreat. In the end, he was seriously injured and returned to the sect to close the door of death. How would the immortal Changmei feel about this? In his opinion, Zexu was the culprit who caused Su Jian to be in seclusion. Of course, that was an exaggeration. But Zexu's existence constantly reminded the immortal Changmei how much of a failure he was as a master, so it was impossible for him to look at her in a good light. When Zexu formed a second-grade golden elixir and showed a talent for cultivation similar to that of her father, the immortal Changmei's attitude softened. As a result, Zexu practiced the flow of love and flirted with her junior fellow apprentice. In short, the immortal Changmei admired and was unhappy with Zexu. He admired her talent for cultivation and the grade of golden elixir, which were inherited from Su Jian's swordsmanship talent. What he was unhappy about was of course her stubbornness, her inflexibility, and her sentimental character, which was also inherited from Su Jian. Alas, if Ling Yunpo didn't exist, how good it would be, may I ask the immortal? Seeing that the long-browed immortal had not said anything for a long time, Zexu asked in a low voice, may I ask what is the result of my judgment? Can Jinxiao go back? You're in a hurry to go out, do you want to see your junior brother? The long-browed immortal asked coldly. Zexu nodded slightly, his face flushed, and he lowered his head without answering. Let me ask you. The long-browed immortal continued to ask, if one day your father comes out of retreat and disagrees with you and King Feng's Hunren, what will you do? Zexu's face suddenly turned pale, and he lowered his head and said, I will try my best to persuade the master. If he doesn't listen, what can I do? The long-browed immortal sneered and said casually, you're a second-grade golden elixir, and King Feng's Hunren is only a third-grade one. How can your father let you become a Taoist partner with him? Zexu did not answer, but obviously did not agree with the long-browed immortal's guess at all. Is the master the kind of mediocre person who judges the value of his apprentice by the grade of the golden elixir? Seeing her stubborn expression again, the immortal long eyebrows suddenly felt a headache. The father and daughter were exactly the same, they trusted their own judgment too much and refused to listen to the teachings of the elders. Immortal, I want to say something too. Elder Minghui suddenly said. Go ahead. The immortal long eyebrows waved his hand impatiently. Excuse me, immortal Jinxiao. Elder Minghui said calmly, if one day you need to make a choice between the sect and your Taoist partner, what would you do? The head of Yuzheng next to him immediately interrupted him and said, Minghui. Don't ask irrelevant questions in the criminal law hall. This was clearly an attempt to sow discord. If Zexu gave a bad answer, he would anger the immortal long eyebrows. The head of Yuzheng would never allow this. Yuzheng, wait a minute. The long-browed immortal suddenly said, staring at Nzesu, I would also like to know what Zenran Jinxao would choose. If one day, the sect needs Zenran Fen to make a sacrifice, otherwise its strength will be greatly damaged, what would you choose, Jinxao? Nzesu fell silent and bowed his head without saying a word. Just when the long-browed immortal was a little disappointed, Nzesu suddenly knelt on the ground and said, if someone really needs to sacrifice for the sect, Jinxao is willing to take your place, just to save my life. The long-browed immortal was speechless. In his opinion, there was no need to carefully weigh the value of the second-grade and third-grade golden elixir. How could Shushan agree to let a second-grade golden elixir give up his life in order to save a third-grade golden elixir? You volunteered to take your place, have you ever thought about whether the sect is willing? Did the sect use so many resources to train you, just to let you sacrifice at will? Just when the long-browed immortal was angry and speechless, he heard Elderming suddenly laugh and say, Master Jinxao is so loyal, which is admirable. But I think, if he were in his place, Master King Fen might not be so. Nzesu was indignant when she heard this, and was about to open her mouth to refute, but she heard Elderming say again, if Jinxao is found guilty this time and needs to be executed on the spot, how will Master King Fen react? Will he completely ignore the rules of the sect and rescue Master Jinxao? Or will he pretend that nothing happened for the sake of self-protection? Nzesu's face was stiff, and she subconsciously wanted to say something, but she didn't know what to say. Emotionally, if she really encountered that situation, she naturally hoped that her junior brother would not abandon her. But rationally speaking, if her junior brother sacrificed himself to rescue her, Nzesu would rather he pretend to be deaf and dumb and not take risks. The immortal with long eyebrows also fell into a thoughtful expression, only to hear Elderming say again, Immortal, I think we can stage a play and pretend that the news of Immortal Jinxao is going to be executed. If Immortal King Fen chooses to protect himself, it proves that he is not worthy of Immortal Jinxao's emotional investment at all. It is not a bad idea for Jinxao to stop at this point and practice the Forget Love stream. The immortal with long eyebrows was immediately moved. In his opinion, King Fen was just a jinn and immortal, how could he have the courage to resist the sect? As long as King Fen did not come to rescue, Jinxao would naturally be greatly disappointed, and would give up asking for love and practice forgetting love, no longer having emotional constraints and human weaknesses. It's perfect. It's ridiculous. The head of Yuzheng said coldly, let's not talk about anything else. How will it end if we falsely declare that true man Jinxao is guilty? Simple. Elderming laughed, just say that a traitor from the demon sect killed our true man of Ziyun Peak, and put the blame on true man Jinxao. In order to find out the identity of the traitor, the sect falsely declares that true man Jinxao is guilty and lures the traitor to reveal his true identity. Putting the blame on the traitor from the demon sect, this trick has been proven to be extremely useful in past history. The previous surprise attack plan of the Zhao family in Yuan failed, and it was also blamed on the traitor from the demon sect. Everyone's reaction was, oh, it turned out to be a traitor from the demon sect, how despicable, which is already a traditional skill of the three pure ones of the orthodox sect. If true man King Fen comes to jailbreak, how will it end afterwards? The head of Yuzheng sect asked coldly, are we going to hold him accountable? True man Jinxao is innocent. Aren't you afraid that King Luo Peak will become disunited by doing this? How could true man King Fen jailbreak? The long-browed immortal suddenly said, he is just a jinn and true man. Could he dare to be an enemy of the entire Shushan? After saying that, he looked at Nzesu in the hall and said with a sneer, as long as true man King Fen finds me and claims that he is willing to die in your place, I will recognize the relationship between you and will never mention this matter again. Otherwise, Su Jian is not here, and according to the master-disciple hierarchy, I will be the one to decide your marriage. You'd better think it over. Before Nzesu could answer, the head of Yuzheng sect was already displeased. He stood up, flipped his sleeves, and left without saying a word. Chapter 767. Rebellion against Shushan. It is quite impolite to walk away in front of the sect guardian immortal. But what the head of Yuzheng cannot tolerate is this attitude of playing with the sect's affairs. Can the sect guardian immortal do whatever he wants in the sect like a tyrant? Sorry, he really can. The reason why the sect guardian immortal guards the sect is that the great prestige brought by his cultivation realm will have a huge impact on the entire sect. The Red Pine immortal pays attention to the overall situation and basically does not interfere in political affairs. As a result, the power of the sect is highly concentrated in the hands of the headmaster, and everyone is accustomed to obeying the overall situation. The Wangxiang immortal likes to cultivate his body and mind and stays in seclusion. As a result, the whole Penglai has become as docile as water, not good at fighting, and obsessed with academics. The Whitebone Venerable worked hard to govern, and the Ingadeo monks pursued the elite system, and all kinds of internal involutions and fierce competition with each other. The Bloodsea Patriarch has been slacking off for a long time, and the people of the mortal sect have been demoralized, and even the main sect has been exterminated several times, making the world laugh. Now that the immortal Chanmele has taken the lead in testing people's hearts, it is hard to say what kind of impact it will have on the Shushan sect, but if the Yuzheng sect master knows that this matter is not handled well, King Luo Peak will definitely be completely alienated. To put it bluntly, it is not impossible that true Manking Feng does not know the truth and only knows that his sister was executed for no crime, and he will directly rebel against Shushan on impulse. At the time, if the immortal Chanmele comes out and says it's just a test, can he still make up for the situation? Elder Minwu, the one who started it, will have no descendants. After calming down for a while, the Yuzheng sect master returned to the Patriarch Hall and called his personal disciple Jinghuasenren. Go to King Luo Peak and find that true Manking Feng, and tell him that black and white cannot be reversed, and right and wrong must be clearly distinguished. Disciple knows. True Man Jing was puzzled and responded respectfully. Well, don't go right away. The head of Yuzheng thought for a moment, and then said, go in a few days. The immortal Chanmele had just decided to test Ling Yunpo, and then he sent someone to give him a hint. That was simply going against the immortal Chanmele. Even if he was helping to cheat, it couldn't be too obvious. The head of Yuzheng thought so, but he didn't know that Elder Mingwu on the other side immediately sent a letter with a flying sword after returning to the peak, and sent the secret instructions to a certain place. King Luo Peak, at the entrance of the Taoist temple. Ling Yunpo was sweeping the fallen leaves with some boredom, and his heart was filled with unspeakable uneasiness. On the one hand, from a rational point of view, Shushan would never take action against a second-grade golden elixir unless the immortal Chanmele was a spy of the demon sect, a traitor in the hell. On the other hand, the history that had happened could not be deviated. So what was the reason that even the demon sect heard that Shushan was going to execute senior sister Anne? Could it be that it was really a rumor? Just when he was worried, a man suddenly landed on King Luo Peak with a sword. It was Sima Chang'an, who looked anxious and shouted, "Oh no! True Manking Feng and True Man Jingxiao are going to be in trouble." "Well, senior sister is in trouble?" Ling Yunpo was very anxious and asked quickly, "What's going on?" "I don't know, but a senior sister asked me to tell you to go over and talk to you." Sima Chang'an said nothing, and once again rode the sword light and rushed to the distance. "There is no time, follow me." Ling Yunpo then rode the sword light and followed Sima Chang'an, thinking, what is the senior sister looking for me to talk to face to face? Could it be a lie? Think about it carefully. If it is a lie, it doesn't matter. First of all, this is the territory of Shushan. Is there anyone here to ambush and kill me? Secondly, if someone really wants to trick me over and ambush and kill me, I will use illusion to confuse them, and then teleport and escape. My illusion has reached perfection, but I can interrupt the pursuit of Master Ziwei. Kumlinjing remained silent, just watching his inner performance coldly. Not long after, the two finally arrived at Arimo Canyon one after the other. This canyon is located on the border of the Shushan sphere of influence, close to the southern border area, so there are few cultivators coming and going. It is a good place to avoid being seen and heard for a secret meeting. As soon as he entered the valley, Ling Yunpo realized something was wrong. Because the person standing in the center of the valley was not a beautiful and graceful senior sister, but a middle-aged man with gray hair and a gloomy face. The master of Ziyun Peak, Elder Mingwu. Seeing that the situation was not good, Ling Yunpo subconsciously wanted to turn around, but found that Sima Chang'an had quietly intercepted him on his way back in advance. "Master King Feng," Elder Mingwu said dimly, "I have a question and I want to ask you." "Senior, you are joking." Ling Yunpo laughed. "What skills do I have to help you solve your doubts?" "It's like this." Elder Mingwu said indifferently, "I had a beloved disciple in the past, named Lu Zizhen, who died at the hands of Master King Feng in a battle of magic. Of course, this can only be attributed to his poor skills. He is dead. However, I am curious about what kind of flying sword Master King Feng used as his natal sword at the time." Ling Yunpo's expression changed slightly, and he heard Elder Mingwu say again, "Well, it's the one that is black all over, 3 feet and 6 inches long, with a lotus relief on the hilt, and can use water-based forbidden techniques. It's called Kingping. It is said to be the sword worn by the great masters of the Jirizhao in ancient times." Ling Yunpo already knew that the other party was not well informed, and only answered tentatively, Well, I thought so at first. Elder Mingwu said indifferently, but later for some reasons, I learned and could confirm that the real Kingping sword had already left this world with the great Jiri Jiao master. So, true Manking Fen, what kind of immortal sword is behind this Kingping sword of yours? Seeing that its water-based forbidden spells are so powerful, it already makes people curious. Seeing that most of its forbidden spells are solitary and less young, it makes people want to find out clearly. Elder Mingwu. Ling Yunpo suddenly interrupted him and said, after the ancient battle of Ninjiri ended, the great Jirija master retreated to the cave and no longer went out. After that, he ascended to heaven, and no one knew the details except a few of his direct disciples. Since you were an elder of Shushan, why do you know the secrets of the ancient Jirijao? I also want to find out clearly. Elder Ming looked at him speechlessly. After a long time, he suddenly laughed. You guessed right. He nodded approvingly. I'm indeed a traitor in the hell. I'm also that traitor who has been lurking in the Shushan Shanking sect for the longest time and has the highest status. I answered your question, now it's your turn to answer my question. Is your natal sword Qin? Before he finished speaking, he suddenly felt dizzy, his 5 senses were upside down, and his limbs were out of control, as if he had encountered an extremely powerful illusion. When Elder Mingwu used a secret method to break free from the illusion, he found that Ling Yunpo had disappeared long ago, leaving only Sima Changyan who was also deeply trapped in the illusion and could not move. Another sword light came from outside the valley, but it was Elder Ling Quan, who asked in a deep voice, Mingwu, how did you ask? He let him run away. Elder Mingwu said coldly, with your strength of the great perfection of the nascent soul realm, can you let that kid run away? Elder Ling Quan asked with a frown. Who knows? That kid does have some skills. Elder Ming looked at the unconscious Sima Changyan, and suddenly stabbed him through the chest with a sword, nailing him to the ground. What's wrong? Elder Ling Quan raised his eyebrows, but did not stop him. He just asked curiously, why do you want to kill him? You witnessed the Taoist King Feng attacking his fellow disciples and betraying Shushan. Elder Ming used the water-based Taoist method on the sword to completely kill Sima Changyan. He said coldly, this matter needs to be reported to the headmaster and the immortals as soon as possible. Well. Elder Ling Quan was silent for a moment, and said, even so, Immortal Chanmei can't do anything to Immortal Jing Xiao. After all, she is a second-grade golden elixir. You can use Jing Xiao as bait to lure out Immortal King Feng. Elder Mingwu replied, if King Feng's crime of treason is not dealt with, where is the dignity of the Shushan Shanking sect? But if this strategy is implemented, Jing Xiao will definitely become alienated from the sect. According to Immortal Chanmei's idea, he will definitely implement this strategy and pretend to execute Immortal Jing Xiao so that Jing Xiao will give up on King Feng because he believes that King Feng will never come out to rescue his senior sister. Will King Feng really come to rescue us? Elder Ling Quan showed a half smile. Maybe, maybe not. Elder Mingwu said dimly, it doesn't matter. If he doesn't come to rescue us, Jing Xiao will not have any good feelings towards the Shanking sect of Shushan regardless of whether he has severed his feelings for him or not. If he comes to rescue us, we will have a chance to seize the sword. Of course, before that, we need to thoroughly establish his crime of treason. Len Quan, you have never been involved in anything related to King Luo Peak before. With you as a witness, even if the head of Yuzhi is suspicious, he will definitely not be able to produce any evidence to refute it. Chapter 768 Make a Choice. Traitor. Hateful traitor. Ling Yunpo has never hated the existence of traitors more than now. What kind of underworld sect is Hell Road? And Shushan, the dignified peak master, is actually a spy of Hell Road, and he also wants to kill a young and promising Jindan Shinran like me. I think you Shushan, I'm afraid it's a pill. Is there a possibility that he doesn't want to kill you, but wants to steal your sword? Kumlan Mirror reminded him. What's the difference? Ling Yunpo asked back, if he steals my sword, he will kill me too. However, after Kumlan Mirror's reminder, Ling Yunpo immediately reacted. Wait, my Kingping sword? Kingping has gone with you Wishan Xian. Then what is my Kingping sword? Kingping, let me ask you something. Ling Yunpo took the Kingping sword out of his body and asked. Kingping sword didn't say a word, obviously pretending to be dead. I don't quite understand what Elder Mingwu said earlier. Ling Yunpo continued to ask, if you are not my Kingping, what other sword can you be? Ruping. Who is Ruping? Because this joke was too time-traveling, Kingping sword couldn't hold back and asked curiously. Ruping is? Ling Yunpo pondered for a moment and said, why don't you tell me who you are, and I will tell you who Ruping is. Master Sword Master, instead of thinking about finding out who I am, you might as well think about how to save your senior sister Anne. Kingpin Sword stretched out his voice and said slowly, after all, Elder Ming dared to attack you in Shushan. He must have been sure that Anzisu would not come to save you, or go to Yuzheng Sect Master for you to report to help, right? That's right. The first priority now is to find out what happened to senior sister Anne. Ling Yunpo thought about this and was extremely urgent. He didn't care about continuing to sharpen the Kingpin Sword. He just quickly left the Shushan territory and found a market nearby to conceal his identity and inquire about the news. Soon, he learned a bigger sad news. Kim Hinsenrum was suspected of killing his fellow disciple Sima Chang'an, and was currently wanted by Shushan. Anyone who brought him back alive could get a generous reward from Shushan. Suspected and alive, rather than confirmed and kill without mercy, showed that the Shushan high-level officials did not fully believe the frame-up of Elder Mingwei, so they still wanted to catch King Hinsenrum to find out the truth. But since Elder Mingwei was able to kill Sima Chang'an to frame him, he might not have a corresponding backup plan. If he returned to Shushan at this time, he would probably be trapped and wait for death. We have to think of a way. Ling Yunpo was thinking of a way when he found that there were many unidentified monks in the market. Are they the Shushan monks who came to arrest me? No, according to the scan results, some of them are independent cultivators with completely different skills from Shushan, and they are probably here for the reward. With the help of a Jin's illusion, he cleverly escaped from the search of these monks quietly, and no one could detect his presence. It turned into a sword light and fled southward. In front of it was the border of southern Xinjiang. In this season, the peach blossom miasma was everywhere in southern Xinjiang, and it was difficult for high-level cultivators to stay there for a long time. But Ling Yunpo had already mastered the innate Chaos 5 elements Divine Light. Now for him, the changes of the 5 elements were as simple as breathing. He immediately used the magic to dissipate all the peach blossom miasma around him, leaving a safe area for passage. Hiding in the depths of the miasma in southern Xinjiang, Ling Yunpo was relieved. It was impossible for the Shushan cultivators to chase him here, but what should he do next? Not receiving news from senior sister and make people feel uneasy. But as Kingpin Sword said, since Elder Mingwei dared to attack me, then senior sister's situation might not be much better. Wait, are they going to convict senior sister and execute her publicly? If so, it explains why Wei Dongliu in the future timeline learned the news in the demon cult's base camp, because Shushan wanted to use the news of the execution of senior sister to lure me back to the sect. Damn, how could I be fooled? Really? Kunlun Mirror suddenly asked, but if you don't go back, if they really execute Nzesu, won't you regret it for the rest of your life? Senior sister is a second-grade golden elixir. Ling Yunpo replied, unless the immortal Chanmei was possessed by the devil, how could he execute a second-grade golden elixir? So, you are 100% sure that even if you don't go back, senior sister will definitely not be in trouble? Kunlun Mirror asked in surprise. Ling Yunpo was silent. Kunlun Mirror's question just now is actually his deepest worry. From a rational analysis, Shushan can't destroy the Great Wall to execute a second-grade golden elixir. How many thousands of years will it take to wait for a second-grade golden elixir? But the development of the situation is too bizarre. First, senior sister was taken away inexplicably, then Elder Mingwei, the traitor of the Hell Road, blew himself up, and then I was framed and even wanted by Shushan. Even if senior sister was fine, or if Elder Mingwei, the traitor, did not exist, I would go directly to the head of Yuzheng and confess my innocence. But what if, combining the above 2 points, what if the long-browed immortal was deceived by the traitor of the Hell Road and really wanted to kill our King Luo Peak lineage? Senior sister is now in prison, and I am the only one who can make a choice. Be careful. If you easily choose to return to the sect, but fall into a deadly situation, the consequences will be irreversible. Ling Yunpo thought about it, and felt his scalp tingling, and he couldn't sort out the clues at all. Every once in a while, Ling Yunpo left the miasma of Nanjing to go out to the market to get information. The new news this time was expected. Jing Xiaozhenren was sentenced to be questioned in Tianji Square of Inmei Jinding in 1 month for killing a fellow disciple without authorization. If it were placed in other sects, killing a fellow disciple without authorization would basically be a life for a life, but because of the fierce internal competition and too many private fights in Shushan, it is hard to say how the sentence will be. It may be death penalty, or it may be a fixed-term imprisonment of several hundred years, or even more likely that there is no intention to sentence, just to trick me back. How could I be fooled by such a trick? I bet you won't do anything to senior sister Anne. By the way, have you not thought about it yet? Kunlun Mirror asked, if you believe that this is a trip to lure you back, then the identity of Shushan Ling Yunpo will be temporarily sealed. As long as the suspicion on you is not cleared, there is no way you can get the fragment of the sky-making stone in the hands of the long-prowed immortal. It is better to focus on other identities first. What do you mean you haven't thought about it yet? I just plan to act cautiously. Ling Yunpo was still stubborn. Kunlun Mirror sighed and said nothing, knowing that Ling Yunpo was still hesitant when he said he would act cautiously. What if Nzisu was really sentenced to death and executed in public? In order to prevent this from happening, Ling Yunpo must go back to save people. But how to save people? Fight with the entire Shushan Shanking sect and face the Li Yangyi microdust sword formation head-on? As long as he goes back, with his cultivation level of a small Jintan's Hinran, he will be a fish on the chopping board and be slaughtered at will. This is also obvious. Alas. Kunlun Mirror sighed and said, if you ask me, it's better not to go back. Once you're exposed to the entire Shushan, I can't save you and Nzisu together, and even if I want to take you away, my ability will also be exposed to the public. Anyway, you and Nzisu are just acting, and the real goal is to collect the fragment of the booty and stone, right? Ling Yunpo said nothing. Chapter 769. Almost there. Ling Yunpo often wondered whether the relationship between him and Nzisu was just a show. If not, then with the countless affectionate interactions in the past, as well as Nzisu's almost unlimited trust, tolerance and dependence on him, all fake? If yes, how could he explain that he was a traitor and would betray Shushan sooner or later, and Nzisu never knew this? This involves a more difficult and essential question. What exactly do you want? If you still aim to collect the booty and stone, then you should avoid putting yourself in unnecessary danger. What is unnecessary danger? Even if you go back to the Shushan execution ground, even if you have a first-grade golden elixir, many immortal level secrets, and no matter how superb your sword controlling skills are, facing the numerous Yuning elders of Shushan and the long-prowed immortal holding the Li Yangyi microdust sword, you will basically be slapped to death, no matter what. This is unnecessary danger. Chengyu and Zhu, what can you do if you go back? If Nzisu was really going to be sentenced to death, you'll just go to hell with her if you go back. But if Shushan does not intend to punish Nzisu, then it will be the same whether you go back or not. Arjun is right. I can't do anything if I go back. It is better to temporarily seal up the small account on Shushan's side and wait and see how Shushan will deal with senior sister Anne. But, if Shushan really intends to, in the cave where he was hiding, Ling Yunpo pulled his hair angrily, and bloodshot eyes appeared faintly. He looked outside the cave with a stiff expression, his eyes dull, like a beast struggling in vain in the quagmire. In the sea of consciousness, Arjun and Kingpin Jian looked at each other in silence. Ling Yunpo's analysis of the situation was naturally recognized by the mirror and the sword. What will happen to Nzisu in the end depends on Shushan's true attitude towards her. The possibility of whether Ling Yunpo chooses to go back to save her is less than 0.1%. If you don't believe it, just ask if 1,000 Ling Yunpo can save senior sister Anne from Shushan. Even if 10,000 Ling Yunpo are tied together, they would not be able to survive even one move in the hands of the Longmei immortal. Saving or not saving her would be useless. The cultivation level of Jindan is too weak. Facing such a behemoth as the Shanking sect of Shushan, it is like a mantis trying to stop the wheel from moving forward. If you want to be purely rational, you should choose not to go back to save her. In this way, if Shushan really wants to kill Nzisu, Ling Yunpo will at least not die with her. However, if Ling Yunpo can really think rationally, he would not be entangled here for so long. Since he is entangled, whether he admits it or not, deep in his heart he is eager to save senior sister Anne, even if he can't convince himself from reason. Guan Shu. Kunlun Jing sighed and said, or we can switch to other small accounts and find out what Shushan's attitude is in the future, how about that? It's not a solution for you to sit here and worry about it. What if other small accounts go to find out that Shushan has executed senior sister? Ling Yunpo said indifferently, it's too late now. His voice was a little hoarse, which made Kunlun Jing very reluctant, so she was silent for a long time and asked, Guan Shu, you actually have fallen in love with Nzisu, right? At that moment, Ling Yunpo's figure suddenly froze. Before his identity was exposed, he could chat with Arjun, saying that senior sister Anne has big breasts, a thin waist and long legs, how can I not love her, and that I have been a disciple of King Luo Peak since I saw senior sister for the first time, but that was just a flowery talk to fool around. If you really fall in love with her, then how will you face her after you brazenly try to seize the booty and stone and really betray Shushan Shanking sect? Let senior sister and face the pain and despair of being deceived and betrayed. Is this what you call loving her? It's really touching. To some extent, the deep crisis brought by Elder Mingwu this time is just to bring forward the crisis in the future, so that Ling Yunpo can bear the psychological torture he deserves first. Or, Kumlin Jing said slowly, as if she was making a very difficult decision, so that her voice was trembling a little. Forget about the matter of seizing the sky-making stone. You continue to be your Shushan sword fairy Lin Yunpo, and I will find a host to start over, so that you won't have to betray Shushan and have to part with your beloved senior sister, making me seem like an evil magic weapon to torture the host. I don't know. Ling Yunpo replied in a low voice. Kumlin Jing asked in a daze. I don't know. Ling Yunpo looked at the messy sand on the ground and repeated, I don't know if I fell in love with her. Of course. Kumlin Mirror suddenly remembered that this guy had no way to prove the love flow in the Shushan cave. Of course he would play tricks on the spot, he was the best at it anyway. He could hug Zhu Yinlian, Shili and Jingli and secretly call them wife, he could say to Long Hu I will protect you forever, but he never said the 3 words I love you to any of them. Maybe he felt it was hypocritical, maybe he was afraid of revealing a flaw, or maybe he just couldn't say it at all, who knows? Maybe he himself doesn't know the answer. Kumlin Mirror was thinking like a madman, and suddenly heard King Ping Sword sighing and saying, Master Sword Master, sometimes, it's not necessarily right to act according to instinct. Just like a mother with her child facing a wolf, even if she bravely rushes up to fight the wolf, it's nothing more than 1 death and 2 lives. It's better to leave the child and run for her own life. The wolf is busy eating the child and won't chase the mother, right? Hey. That's enough. Kumlin Mirror was so upset that he interrupted it and said, you can talk less if you don't know how to talk. But, King Ping Sword chuckled, in the end, humans are such stupid creatures. They know that hiding is the best choice, but when it comes to the critical moment, they still rush out in a fit of anger. Master Sword Master, you shouldn't be that stupid, right? Ling Yunpo didn't answer, but continued to look down at the ground. A few ants were moving forward on the soft sand. They walked steadily and without hesitation, as if they would never get tangled or hesitate. They quickly left the shadows and climbed into the sunlight outside the cave. Sunlight, it's almost time. Ling Yunpo suddenly raised his sword and stood up, walking out of the cave. The hem of his clothes was still stained with sand from the ground, and his hair was messy, covered with dew from the dust in the cave, but he also did not hesitate and stepped into the blazing sunlight outside. Master Sword Master? King Ping Sword asked in surprise. I'll go save her. Ling Yunpo replied. But you can't fight against the entire Shushan. King Ping Sword seemed a little regretful and said with emotion, without Yo and I helping you, you're just going to die. Yeah. Ling Yunpo was silent for a moment. I know. But as you said, in this world, after all, there are things that are more unacceptable than death, and fools like me who are not afraid of death. Chapter 770. Teach you a spell. Mount Imaya, Tianji Square. Zisu was wearing a single garment, carrying the shackles of guilt, tied to the prisoner dragon pillar, and remained silent. Jing Xiao, do you know your mistake? Long-browed Immortal asked coldly. Jing Xiao, I don't know. Zisu replied coldly. You and my master once agreed that if the King Hinsenran abandoned you, you would break off this relationship. Long-browed Immortal said angrily, now he is worried about you being questioned, but he has not come to me to plead for you, but chose to flee Shushan in a hurry. He met a fellow disciple on the road and asked him about it, but he was suspicious and attacked and killed him. It can be seen that in the heart of King Hengxinran, whether it is the sect or you, his senior sister, are not as important as his own life. Why do you still care about such a heartless person? At this point, Long-browed Immortal was so angry that he almost pulled his beard off. That King Hen really disappointed him. He actually abandoned his elder sister, defected from Shushan, and killed his fellow disciples. Any of these crimes are unforgivable. But what made him even more angry was that Zisu refused to admit the reality and insisted that there must be something fishy. He asked the long-browed Immortal to find King Feng for questioning. He has already defected from Shushan, where can I find him to question him? You still expect him to come to save you, how foolish. You're a second-grade golden elixir. If you didn't have this emotional attachment, your future path would certainly be limitless. The long-browed Immortal continued to persuade, although your father had a talent for swordsmanship in the past, he was not well known. Once he entered my sect, he was like a dragon in the sky. Any elixir or sword manual from any sect was at his disposal. As long as you break off your relationship with that thief and call me master, you will be the Immortal's direct disciple in the future. Isn't it better than sticking with that unfaithful thief?" Zisu stammered for a moment and closed her eyes. "Thank you for your kindness, Immortal, but, if you can let go of this emotional attachment so easily, I won't be myself anymore." "Fool." The long-browed Immortal was already impatient, and when he heard her stubborn words, he was furious. He wished he could find King Feng immediately and chop him into meat paste with 3 knives and 6 holes. A dignified second-grade golden elixir sword Immortal, with such a promising future, but because of his love for the wrong person, he is unwilling to accept the reality that the other party has defected from the sect. This love flow is really harmful. On the other side, in the secret room of King Luo Peak of Shushan Mountain, with the help of illusion, Ling Yunpo sneaked in and came to the stone wall where Su Jian was in seclusion. He knelt down heavily on the cushion and kowtowed. "Master, my senior sister has been captured, and my disciple has been framed. Now the Taoist lineage of King Luo Peak is in danger. I beg you to come out of seclusion." The surroundings were quiet. Ling Yunpo kowtowed again, crying, "My senior sister didn't kill my fellow disciples without permission, but she was imprisoned by the criminal law hall. In fact, they wanted to force her to convert to another sect on the grounds that she was practicing the questioning flow of love. My disciple was framed by the traitor in the hell and had to bear the charge of treason. The traitor is powerful and I have nowhere to go. If Master can't come out of seclusion to save me, I will go to the underworld with my senior sister and die without a burial place." There was still no response around. How to wake up a person who is in seclusion through the thick stone wall? Ling Yunpo didn't know what to do, but he placed his last hope on Su Jian. Since Su Jian still didn't wake up, this last ray of hope was also cut off, and the only thing left was, there was only one way. Ling Yunpo sat facing the stone wall for a long time, and stood up in silence. "I'm going to save my senior sister," he said. "Master is inside, take care of yourself." After that, he walked out. Leaving the secret room of King Luo Peak, Ling Yunpo flew up on his sword and flew towards the direction of the golden summit of Immortal Mountain. He poured all his true essence into it, flying faster and faster, until he merged with the sword and shot towards Tianji Square like a meteor. When he arrived above Immortal Mountain, he saw Zisu tied to the dragon prison pillar, and the immortal Chanmei scolded her coldly beside him, as if insulting her. Countless peak masters and elders stood in the outer circle of Tianji Square to watch, each with a solemn expression, silent, just exchanging glances. Although everyone felt that with Zisu's rank of the second-grade golden elixir, the immortal Chanmei would definitely not be willing to kill her. But now she was unwilling to let go, and she didn't give the immortal face in public. If she completely annoyed the immortal Chanmei, she would definitely not end well. Ling Yunpo didn't know so much. Seeing his senior sister being shackled in public, he was immediately furious. "What did you do wrong to be treated so humiliatingly? This Shushan, I really can't stay here for a moment." Just as he was about to dive down to rescue his senior sister, he suddenly felt his whole body condense, and the true energy in his dancing was completely out of control. Elder Mingwu appeared behind him, and said to the long-browed immortal with a smile, "Immortal, this traitor has surrendered." As he said that, he tapped several major anchor points on Ling Yunpo's body, and completely sealed his meridians with a secret method. Ling Yunpo did not struggle. After all, he would not be able to win if they really fought, with so many Yuning elders on the scene, but just glared at the long-browed immortal. "You came just in time." The long-browed immortal stretched out his hand and grabbed Ling Yunpo in his hand, shouting, "Thief! How did you kill your fellow disciples and betray the sect? Tell the truth here." "I have never killed my fellow disciples, nor have I betrayed the sect," Ling Yunpo shouted angrily. "How did Sima Changyan die?" The long-browed immortal sneered. "It was killed by Elder Mingwu," Ling Yunpo shouted again. "Absurd," Elder Mingwu said disdainfully. "I was not at the scene at all, there are witnesses to it. And when you committed the crime, it was witnessed by Elder Lin Quan himself. The evidence is irrefutable. Do you still want to quibble? Elder Lin Quan is in cahoots with you." Ling Yunpo shouted loudly, his expression firm and unyielding. "You are all spies from hell." Accusing 2 Shushan elders of being spies is a very serious crime, so much so that the head of Yuzheng next to him couldn't hold it in anymore, and said, "Kim Fen, if you have evidence, bring it out as soon as possible. The immortal will surely give you justice." "Evidence? What evidence do I have?" Ling Yunpo smiled bitterly and said, "Since I accused Elder Lin Quan of being a spy, how can his witness be counted? If the immortal is fair, he could have put me and the two elders in jail and interrogated them carefully, instead of arresting me here and letting the two people go free. The long-browed immortal was immediately furious and shouted, "How can you, Ajintan's Hinran, put the two Yuning elders in jail for investigation just because you, Ajintan's Hinran, accused them?" Ling Yunpo did not answer, but turned his head to look at Nzisu. Nzisu suddenly struggled violently and repeatedly signaled to him with her eyes, which meant run fast. Ling Yunpo suddenly understood everything. The person that Shushan really wanted to execute was not Senior Sister and who was tied to the prison dragon pillar, but himself. Killing a third-grade Jindansenran in exchange for a second-grade Jindansenran who had no emotional weaknesses was probably a worthwhile deal for the long-browed immortal who regarded the flow of emotions as a flood and a beast. "How is it, Master Sword Master?" Kingping Sword asked in the sea of consciousness, and its tone sounded a bit gloating. "Do you regret it? I told you a long time ago not to run back foolishly." Ling Yun broke the silence for a moment and replied, "Why should you regret it? Now that I am sure that Senior Sister will be fine, I can let a Jin teleport away without worry. Are you willing to leave Shushan like this?" Kunlun Mirror also asked. "What can I do if I'm unwilling?" Ling Yunpo asked coldly, "Can I still massacre this damn Shushan? What if I teach you a spell?" Kingping Sword said slowly, "As long as you recite that spell, you can massacre everyone in Shushan. Do you want to recite it?" Looking at the miserable appearance of Senior Sister on the dragon prison pillar, Ling Yunpo was already full of pain and tears, almost gritting his teeth, and said hatefully, "Recite it. I'll recite it 1,000 times a day, until this image collapses. Think it through." Kingping Sword suddenly sighed and said, "Once you recite the spell, there's no turning back. You'd better recite it quickly." Listen carefully. Kingping Sword cleared his throat and said, "The 8 wastelands are silent, and they are bright and prosperous." Feeling the cold murderous intent of the long-browed immortal who was close at hand, Ling Yunpo recited in his heart, "The 8 wastelands are silent, and they are bright and prosperous." Kingping Sword continued to recite, "When you meet with Qi, you will feel miserable." Seeing Senior Sister struggling hard on the prison dragon pillar, her pretty face was full of panic, and her fair wrists were already rubbed with blood marks by the iron chain. Ling Yunpo gnashed his teeth in hatred and said angrily, "When you meet someone with Qi, you will be in dire straits." Kingping Sword paused for a moment, sighed and said, "If you pass the 3 hells test, you will be doomed to eternal damnation." The head of Yuzheng seemed to be unable to bear it, and left angrily again. Only the peak masters and elders around were left, casting cold eyes at Tianqi Square, looking at Ling Yunpo as if they were looking at a dead person. Thinking of the various tragic treatments of Shushan in the past, Ling Yunpo did not even have the last bit of hesitation, and said coldly, "If you pass the 3 hells test, you will be doomed to eternal damnation." The next last sentence, don't read it wrong. Kingping Sword deliberately stretched out the voice and said slowly, "Yu for Suyo, Chin Suming." Chapter 771. Burning the Essence. Suming shows off his power. When Ling Yunpo said the last sentence, some kind of power burst out from the Kingping Sword in his body, to be exact, from the Chin Suming sword. Sure enough, he trembled in pain and strangeness, and said with difficulty, "Sure enough, you are. I never said I wasn't, right?" Suming Sword chuckled, "When we first met, you looked up all kinds of information and unilaterally identified me as Kingping Sword. At the time, I thought it was quite interesting, so I answered if you want to think so, it's okay, after all, the name is just a code name. I can be called Suming Sword or Kingping Sword, it doesn't matter." Ling Yunpo couldn't answer, because the endless pure Yinqi had filled his meridians, and more power was being forced in. The restrictions set by Elderman on him were almost effortlessly broken, but he didn't feel any joy. He felt like an inflated water balloon, and water was constantly being poured into it. He was about to explode. "Look." Suming Jian said calmly, "I gave you a chance. Once you say those proverbs, there's no turning back. Generally speaking, to exert my power, the immortal level is the minimum threshold. But you are only at the Jindan level now. Whether you can bear it depends on your ability, Lord Swordmaster." Ling Yunpo wanted to curse, but that power was running rampant in his body, and every blow brought him heart-wrenching pain. "You're lucky to meet me." Suming Jian seemed unaware of his condition, or deliberately turned a blind eye, and continued to say maliciously, "If it were that stubborn guy's Immortal sword, your cultivation had not reached the immortal level, and you had not undergone a sword-granting ceremony of the entire human race, it would simply ignore you, okay? Only someone as merciful as me would be willing to stay by your side when you were in the foundation building stage." That's enough. Cumlin Mirror couldn't bear it anymore and interrupted it. If you keep playing, he'll die. I'm not kidding, Yo-Yo. Sumin Jian said in surprise, once my power is activated, it is impossible to take it back. Then what should I do? Cumlin Mirror was also shocked. You don't really want to kill him, do you? Although I am called the Demon Sword, I still have the basic ethics of an immortal sword, okay? Sumin Jian was extremely speechless and reminded her, don't you have that thing, the burning essence? Hurry up and use your burning essence to extend his life. Cumlin Mirror then remembered that when Nzisu was about to awaken his natural sword heart, he had promised to teach him a secret method in order to entice him to help record this talent. Born with sword bones, burning the true essence, one can almost have a completely immortal body in the short term, but the disadvantage is that it will seriously damage the origin of the natural sword bones. But where did this guy get the natural sword bones? Didn't I simulate it for him with my magical powers? Even if it is to burn, it can only burn its own spiritual power. How about it, Yo-Yo? Sumin Jian asked with a smile, how about you and I join forces to help him make a big fuss in this Shushan? Ah, I really admire you. Cumlin Mirror sighed. But, she looked at Chen Yonzhou who was struggling to maintain consciousness in pain, and thought to herself, I don't hate such a host who can risk his life for Nzisu. The above conversation took place in the sea of consciousness, but in reality it was only a short moment. Ling Yunpa was restrained by the long-browed immortal. He was originally unable to move, and suddenly spurted out purple-black gas from his 7 orifices. The purple-black air was swaying, like a blazing flame, and the long-browed immortal loosened his hand at once. Is this the innate Qin Qi? The long-browed immortal was immediately shocked, and his face was uncertain. The so-called innate Qin Qi is the wisp of Yin Qi generated when the heaven and earth were first separated. Yang Qi is clear, and Yin Qi is turbid. The innate Yang Qi is ethereal, while the innate Yin Qi is thick like flowing water, and it feels heavy when touched. But whether it is the innate solar Qi or the innate Qin Qi, they are both high-level things that even immortals can hardly find. Just as the long-browed immortal was thinking about thousands of things, he saw that Ling Yunpo's 7 orifices were almost bursting, and purple-black flames kept erupting out. It seemed that the flesh could not contain so much Qin Qi, so it leaked out directly. If it was someone else, they would have exploded and died in 3 or 5 breaths, but Ling Yunpo did not die. He just raised his right arm with a trembling hand, and a black immortal sword shot out, cutting off the prisoner dragon pillar that bound Nzisu. The prisoner dragon pillar was extremely thick, and 3 or 5 big men could not hold it with their arms outstretched. The material inside was also hard, and even the immortal sword could hardly leave a mark on it. But under the stab of the black immortal sword, it was like an iron axe hitting a bamboo, and it broke with a sound. At this time, the surrounding peak masters and elders were already in an uproar. No one expected that the King Feng's Hinran, who was restrained by the long-browed immortal, would suddenly spontaneously combust, break free from the restraints, and cut off the prisoner dragon pillar with a sword. Elder Minghui was also horrified, thinking that with this man's golden elixir level, the consuming sword could not recognize its master. If this immortal sword does not recognize its master, it cannot exert its basic strength, so Elder Minghui dared to attack him before. But, looking at the current situation, it seems that the human sword has recognized its master. He was ready to retrieve calmly, but Ling Yunpo suddenly turned his head after cutting off Nzisu's restraints. Ling Yunpo's eyes seemed to be burning, and purple-black flames kept gushing out of his ears, nose and mouth, like a hideous and terrifying dragon. A flash of black light passed by, and the consuming sword stabbed over, and suddenly crossed a distance of dozens of feet, killing Elder Minghui who was about to escape. How dare you, thief! There were several peak masters and elders who were on good terms with Xiun Peak around, and they immediately shouted angrily and quickly urged the immortal swords to rescue. The first green immortal sword blocked the front and collided head-on with the consuming sword. There was not even a sound of metal clashing, but it was just cut in half like a wooden sword. The peak master elder was so shocked that he subconsciously froze in place, not daring to move forward, with an expression of disbelief on his face. The second red immortal sword came, and the samadhi truth fire around it erupted, as if it was going to sweep the consuming sword into it. However, as soon as the samadhi truth fires touched the purple-black aura on the summon sword, they were quickly dispersed like a tide hitting a reef. The consuming sword only slashed upwards during the charge, and the red fairy sword was easily knocked away. Where the swords collided, a thumb-sized gap instantly appeared, and the cracks radiated in all directions like a spider web. Looking at the sword master of the red fairy sword, he spit out a large mouthful of blood, as if his life sword was seriously injured. Under the induction of the aura, he was also seriously injured. With the fate of these two fairy swords in front of him, how could the other peak masters and elders not react? They quickly retracted the fairy sword that was shot out to intercept, and for a moment it seemed as if thousands of troops stopped moving forward, allowing the Chinsuming sword to continue to kill Elder Minghui. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 772 Splitting Anime. Looking from a distance of thousands of miles, the sky of the Shushan Mountains was completely covered by a large area of gloomy clouds. The clouds were so thick that the sunlight was completely blocked, and there was a momentum of a huge storm coming. On the top of the Anime Golden Summit, the swords shrank back, and only Lin Yunpo, who was wrapped in black hair, stood in the air, looking coldly at the Minwelder below and the long eyebrow immortal in front of him. Just now, the long eyebrow immortal suddenly made a move and blocked the Chinsuming sword with the Liuangiawakan sword. Does the immortal want to stop me? Ling Yunpo asked indifferently. He just opened his mouth briefly, and a strong and gloomy wind was born, blowing the robes of the Shushan Peak Masters below, and their bodies were shaky. At this point, if everyone still didn't recognize the Chinsuming sword, then the title of Shushan Sword Immortal would not be worthy. Do you want to betray the sect? The long eyebrow immortal was not afraid, but was furious and asked with his sword pointed. Ling Yunpo sneered, raised his arm, and the Chinsuming sword rose into the air. The whole body was as black as ink, as if it could swallow the light of the sun and the moon. Elder Minwei, I will kill him. If the immortal insists on stopping me, then please take the sword. As he said this coldly, everyone felt that the Chinsuming sword suddenly turned into a whirlpool and began to frantically devour the surrounding spiritual energy. The murderous aura on Ling Yunpo's body was also rising rapidly, almost overwhelming all the peak masters present. Everyone realized that this guy was serious. Damn it. The Chin Sword Master was born again after more than 100,000 years, and the first thing he did was to use the sword against the Shushan sect immortal. Ling Yunpo had no expression on his face, no joy or sadness, just waved his arm lightly, without using any sword controlling moves, just a simple sword cut down. The immortal Chanmei activated his true essence, and the Yin-Yang microdust sword formation was deployed in an instant. Countless sword ki formed an airtight barrier above him mounting, protecting the peak masters and elders below. The Chinsuming sword slashed down, first splitting the sword ki barrier in the middle, and then the Yin-Yang microdust sword formation exploded. The remaining sword ki shot and collided in all directions, and the peak masters and elders had to raise their swords to fight, causing chaos. Ling Yunpo was indifferent and raised his sword again. The second sword. The immortal Chanmei raised the Yin-Yang microdust sword, and under the induction of the ki, he heard the sword in his hand unable to bear the heavy burden and wailing. Although the Yin-Yang microdust sword is the top level among the immortal swords, the Chinsuming sword is a divine weapon that transcends the category of immortal swords. The former was able to take the first slash, which was already his best effort. If he took the second slash, the third slash, then the sword would definitely break. However, the immortal Chanmei had no choice. In front of the Chinsuming sword, even the immortals had a hard time defending themselves. If it was the Yuning elders who had not yet transformed, they would definitely be killed directly like livestock. Now, almost all the Shushan Peak Masters and elders are on the golden summit of Imade Mountain. If the Chin Sword Master really chopped it with a sword, the Shushan Shanking sect could directly declare its extinction. The Yin-Yang microdust sword formation, come again. This time, the sword energy was much sparser, but it was not because the long-browed immortal was exhausted, but because the Liuangi microdust sword could not hold up. Seeing the long-browed immortal showing fatigue, the peak masters and elders below could not help but feel fear and despair. If we had known that it was the Chin Sword Master in person, why would we come to see the immortals perform? Now that we have mistakenly entered the mine pond, there is little hope for survival. Fight. Countless sword lights suddenly rose up, but it was many peak masters and elders who were unwilling to sit and wait for death, and urged the immortal swords to rise to fill the gaps in the Liuangi microdust sword formation. Another sword slashed down, and this time the Chin sword energy was even 3 times stronger than the last time. First, the Liuangi microdust sword formation collapsed, and then countless sword lights suddenly extinguished. Many elders vomited blood, their life swords were damaged, and they were seriously injured and fell to the ground. The remaining sword energy did not decrease, but rushed to the back of the crowd. No. That direction is At the edge of Tianqi Square, Elder Mingwen had already merged with his sword, and the sword-like fled towards the Shushan Patriarch Hall. With his knowledge, of course he saw that the Qin Sword Master was too powerful, and the power of the entire Shushan sect was no match. If they stayed any longer, they would just die together, or be slaughtered by the Qin Sword Master in advance, while the Longmar Immortal can still restrain the other party. If they don't run now, when will they run? However, just as he rushed into the Patriarch's Hall, infinite sword energy rushed in from behind, strangling and destroying his protective magic weapon, his natal sword, his own body, the majestic Shushan Patriarch's Hall, and the many sword tablets that recorded the great achievements of countless Shushan ancestors. Seeing the collapse of the Patriarch's Hall, the long-browed Immortal looked ashen, and the Peak Masters and Elders were half desperate and half shocked and angry. The despair lies in the significance of the existence of the Patriarch's Hall itself, which is almost equivalent to the sect's orthodoxy for the Shushan Shanking sect. Now that even the Patriarch's Hall has been chopped down by someone, how can the Shushan Shanking sect not perish? What was shocked and angry was that everyone was working together to resist the Qin Sword Master, but you, Elder Mingwen, secretly escaped for your life, and even wanted to use the Patriarch's Hall to cover you up. Your heart is really worthy of death. The long-browed Immortal had no anger, only pain. In his opinion, all the Peak Masters are pillars of the Shushan Shanking sect, so how could they betray the sect? It is for this reason that he scoffed at Ling Yunpo's accusation before, not because he had a prejudice against Ling Yunpo. But now Elder Mingwen took advantage of everyone's unpreparedness and quietly ran away alone, which undoubtedly slapped the face of the long-browed Immortal. Since this Elder Mingwen can abandon the sect, could he really be a traitor in the demon sect? If he is really a traitor, then wouldn't I have wronged this King Feng's because of the traitor's instigation, the long-browed Immortal thought in a daze, and the Peak Masters below could no longer stay. Even the Patriarch Hall was chopped down by the Qin Sword Master. Isn't killing us the same as killing chickens? Soon someone found Zisu and shouted at her, Master Jing Xiao, tell your King Feng to stop using his magical powers. Even if we Shushan have done something wrong, we should not resort to violence. Let's talk it over. The fact that the Shushan Roughmen, who were used to drawing swords, were forced to say don't resort to violence showed that they were really afraid of being killed. Zisu stood there in a daze, staring at junior brother Lin in the air, unable to speak. Of course, she knew that the Immortal Chanmele had no intention of killing her, but the conflict between the Immortal and junior brother Lin had intensified to such an extent that it was almost impossible to reconcile. If she asked junior brother Lin to stop and let Shushan go, would it lead to disaster in the future? Kim Hen. The Immortal Chanmele also roared, his voice like a bell, all the guilt is mine. It is the Immortal Chanmele who is responsible for you, not the Shanking sect of Mount Chu. If you want to hold someone responsible, find me. Don't involve innocent people anymore. Ling Yunpo had just confirmed that Elder Mingwen Runes was dead, and when he heard what the Immortal Chanmele said, he was about to speak, but suddenly he found that Elder Lin Quan was not in the crowd. After another scan, he found that he had escaped from him and fled to the bottom of Livenping. Ling Yunpo didn't think twice and immediately slashed a sword downwards. The momentum of this sword was too strong, avoiding the Immortal Chanmele and many Peak Masters, and going to Elder Lin Quan who was further below. The golden summit of Imali was seen to be shaken by the aftermath of this sword energy, and it split into two. Chapter 773. Good chop. Mount Imali is over 1,000 feet high. It is extremely steep and has dead pines hanging upside down. In ancient times, the Imali sword sect was established here, so it is a well-deserved holy mountain in the eyes of the world's sword immortals. However, the Mount Imali that is admired and yearned for by the sword immortals is now split open by the Qinsuming sword. The Qinsuming sword is pure black, but the sword energy is purple. Ling Yunpo just slashed the sword in the air, and the sword energy instantly extended nearly 1,000 feet, penetrating directly into the golden summit of Imali from top to bottom, destroying with overwhelming force, like a broken bamboo. The body of Mount Imali was violently torn apart by the sword energy, and a large amount of soil and rocks collapsed to the sides of the mountain like a river pouring down, falling like a torrential rain. Flocks of birds were startled, and beasts wailed and fled. Looking around, the earth was shaking, like hell on earth. In the mountain valley, in the Thunder Cave, the demon-locking tower also shook in the aftermath of the earth-shattering collapse, shocking the Shushan Peak Masters and Yuning Elders to shout in fear, Qin Sword Master, please stop using your magical powers, and looked at the true Manking Feng almost beggingly. If the demon-locking tower really collapsed, a large number of demons would escape from it. Not to mention that Shushan would definitely be subjected to cruel retaliation. The entire Sichuan and Shu regions would be turned into a living hell. Although Lin Yunpo was angry, he was also sober. He knew that if the demon-locking tower really collapsed, the countless karmas brought by the poisoning of the people of the world would definitely be on him. Therefore, the sword energy he chopped out was specially adjusted at a good angle, and the demon-locking tower was not affected at all. However, Elder Ling Quan deliberately fled in the direction of the demon-locking tower, just to make Ling Yunpo afraid to act rashly. While he was slightly adjusting the angle, Elder Ling Quan took the opportunity to activate his secret method, awesome magic weapon. His figure suddenly disappeared from the spot, and after a moment, he flashed to the other side of the demon-locking tower, and he actually avoided the terrifying sword energy that split a mountain. Ling Yunpo looked at it coldly, and scanned that it was some kind of space-related secret method, which could ignore the distance and teleport a certain distance, but the price must be a large amount of true energy consumption. Arjing said that every time she read the file and teleported, the spiritual energy consumed was an astronomical figure. You are just a young elder, how many times can you use this space secret method to teleport? How many times you teleport, how many swords I will cut you? Ignoring the cries of the elders of the Shushan Peak below, Ling Yunpo raised his arm again and slashed another sword. The consuming sword fell again, but from another angle, the sword energy was cut into the golden summit of Imre Mountain again. So the two sides of the mountain that were originally divided into two are divided into two again. The sliding earth and rocks flowed down like a mighty river, mixed with broken trees, dead bodies of birds and animals, broken stone steps on the mountain road and debris of houses. Elder Ling Quan, who was at the center of the sword energy bombardment, was indeed unable to avoid the second sword again and was directly blasted into pieces on the spot. The sword energy mixed with the innate Qin energy directly tore his body apart and annihilated him, leaving him no chance of survival. The great revenge was finally avenged, and Ling Yunpo finally understood his thoughts. Looking at the people at Shushan below, the long-browed immortal looked gloomy like a defeated dog, and the Peak Master Elder's expression was as timid as a quail, as if he had no fighting spirit to resist. Only Senior Sister and Zissou was left, staring blankly in the distance. Ling Yunpo suddenly shook his body. No way. Wait, although he deliberately avoided the locking demon tower, he accidentally cut King Luo Peak. Ling Yunpo looked carefully and scanned for a while before he realized that his own Taoist temple had not been hit. It was just that the earthquake caused by the aftermath of the sword energy spread and caused a small landslide on King Luo Peak, which looked like it had been cut. If it really chopped down my home, how would I explain to my senior sister? Fortunately, just as he was secretly relieved, he saw a blue sword light suddenly shot out from a collapsed part of King Luo Peak. The sword light quickly circled over King Luo Peak and quickly turned to the golden summit of Imre Mountain. Then he saw that the people of Shushan were dejected and waiting to die. He also saw Ling Yunpo standing in the air with an arrogant attitude, his whole body covered with black flames like an old demon. How could he not understand what happened? Brain supplement? He shouted loudly. Good thief. Give me your life. This strange visitor directly merged with the sword and rushed towards Ling Yunpo without any hesitation. Ling Yunpo subconsciously used the consuming sword to block, but halfway through the block, he suddenly realized something and quickly retracted his strength, but in the end, it was too late. The visitor hit the consuming sword and was immediately knocked back and flew out, landing in the crowd of Shushan below. He staggered to the ground and spit out blood. He was a middle-aged handsome man with a long beard and a slender figure. Master! Zissou cried out, and hurriedly ran over to support him. Sua, you retreat first. Su Jian pulled his daughter's arm away without saying anything. This demon is too powerful, you can't deal with it, leave it to the teachers. No. That's my junior brother. Zissou said with tears in his voice. So it's your junior brother, then I will, Su Jian said subconsciously, and then he didn't know what to say. For a while, no one spoke around, and only the sound of the mountain collapsing in the distance was left. Master. Ling Yunpo also reacted suddenly. He immediately asked Jing and Sumin to temporarily retract their magical powers, and gathered all the Qi in their bodies. Then he quickly landed in front of Su Jian and cried, Master is finally awake. If you don't come out again, our King Luo Peak will be destroyed. Su Jian. Wait, from what I can see, it is the Shushan Taoist lineage that is going to be destroyed now, right? The Shushan Patriarch Hall no longer exists, and even the MA Golden Summit has been split into 4 petals. And then you tell me that King Luo Peak is in danger? What a joke. Another sword light flew in the distance and landed in front of everyone. It was the Yuzheng sect master who had left earlier. Because he didn't like the way the Longmire Immortal treated the two real people, the sect master left again in anger, went down the Yangtze River to relax, and then turned back to Shushan. As a result, he saw that Shushan was almost wiped out now, and his eyes suddenly whitened like copper bells, revealing the same confused expression of Su Jian. It was at this time that Ling Yunpo knew the importance of complaining first. While everyone in Shushan had not yet put down their airs, or had not recovered from his tyranny, he hurriedly told Su Jian with tears and snot about the many grievances that King Luo Peak had suffered since Su Jian had been in seclusion for so many years. King Luo Peak's monthly salary had been withheld for nearly 100 years, is it true? Many cultivators came to challenge Senior Sister Anne, and some even injured her with secret methods and vomited blood, is it true? Ling Yunpo became a disciple of King Luo Peak, and after he got the immortal sword in Jianchai, Ziyun Peak immediately tried to rob him. Am I not lying? There were also various kinds of targeting and exclusion from Shushan, such as the good job of the southern expedition to the 10,000 mountains, which would not come once in decades, and the hard job of guarding the demon locking tower, which was always assigned to the two of them, and so on. All kinds of grievances and sufferings, it is simply too numerous to list. Until the end, Senior Sister Anne was framed and tied to the dragon prison pillar for torture. I was forced to escape from Shushan, but I heard that Senior Sister was going to be executed, so I had to risk my life to come back to save her. Without the help of the immortal sword, there was no way I could survive. Su Jian's face turned pale when he heard this, and then he turned his head to look at the people of Shushan. He saw that the Longmire Immortal was ashamed and silent, and the peak masters and elders looked around with guilt. They knew that what Ling Yunpo said was true, and they were immediately furious. Damn it, I just closed my eyes to heal my wounds for a while, and King Luo Peak was bullied like this. Such an unfair Shushan, it's better to chop it with a sword. Good chop. Chapter 774. The headmaster resigns, the immortal resigns. Although Su Jian was furious, everyone felt guilty but secretly felt lucky. In the past, although the Seven Killings Immortal was ruthless in sword fighting, and was slandered as the Shushan killer by his fellow disciples, he still followed the rules. Now this King Feng Immortal is much more cruel than the Seven Killings Immortal. 1 sword destroyed the Longmire Immortal, 2 swords destroyed the Patriarch Hall, 3 swords, 4 swords, and Mount Emei became 4 petals. Compared with the Qin Sword Master, the Seven Killings Immortal is simply the role model of Shushan. Considering that this is the father-in-law of the Qin Sword Master, and the Qin Sword Master is practicing the asking love stream, at least he should give his wife's family some face and stop tossing it, right? Mount Emei is not a mooncake. It can't be cut anymore. Under the gaze of everyone, the head of Yuzheng also knew that the matter was urgent and could not be delayed any longer, otherwise the Shushan Sword Immortal's spirit would really be dispersed if it continued like this. So he said, Elder Kusha, we all understand that King Luo Peak has grievances. But the most urgent task is how to solve the problem. Yes. Su Jian also nodded. Shushan is now in such a ruin. He also understands the importance of things without the headmaster saying more. So he looked at Ling Yunpo and said, wait, what is the name of this disciple? It was Xue who accepted him as a disciple on my behalf during my retreat. What is the name of this disciple, who is he from, and who he is from, I don't know at all. Disciple Ling Yunpo, Taoist name King Feng. Ling Yunpo said hurriedly. Yes. Su Jian nodded and said, Kim Feng, don't worry, since the master has come out of retreat, he will definitely make the decision for you. The surrounding peak masters and elders wanted to cry but had no tears. Su Jian is the one who makes the decision, that would be great. Otherwise, if true man King Feng continues to kill, all the people in Shushan will be killed by him. We, the head of Yuzheng, wanted to say let's go to the Patriarch's Hall to talk subconsciously, but then he suddenly realized that the Patriarch's Hall was gone. Shushan, it's so miserable. Thinking of this, the head of Yuzheng quickly winked at the immortal with long eyebrows. The immortal with long eyebrows understood the meaning of his eyes and couldn't help but sighed. Seeing this, one thing must be explained. Ling Yunpo killed Shushan like this, and the hatred between the two sides seems to be irreconcilable, right? Not really. Killing a fellow disciple without permission should be punished with death. Killing an elder is a heavier crime. Assassinating the head of the sect is unforgivable. Defeating the immortal, then you are the light of Shushan. This is the cruel fact in front of everyone in Shushan. True man King Feng, the master of Qin Sword, is definitely not defeated by everyone. Not only should we avoid making enemies with him, but we should also make him feel at ease, knowing that Shushan has put aside their past grudges against him and will not target him again. Otherwise, if the Qin Sword Master really killed everyone in Shushan, there would be no need to talk about it. Fortunately, Su Jian did not come out of retreat earlier or later, but at this time, it just happened to be a ladder for reconciliation between Shushan and King Fengzhenren. Without Su Jian, just to eliminate the Qin Sword Master's vigilance, the Shushan Shanking sect would have to kowtow and kneel down to admit their mistakes, but in this way, the initiative would be lost, and the entire sect would have lost its dignity. With Su Jian, it would be much easier. I want to resign from the position of headmaster. The head of Yuzheng said concisely. Elder Kisha has a deep experience and is far more powerful than his peers. He deserves to be the headmaster of Shushan. He had already seen clearly. After Su Jian's retreat, he struggled out of the line between life and death, and had a sudden enlightenment and breakthrough. His cultivation realm has made great progress, and now he is probably at the middle level of the nascent soul realm. Although I don't know how he did it, this level of cultivation is enough to be the headmaster. Yes. The long-browed immortal nodded in approval, and then said, I want to resign from the position of the immortal who guards the Shushan sect. From now on, I will be a guest immortal. That's enough. Who forced the Qin Sword Master to rebel? The first thing that should be blamed is the long-browed immortal. Resigning from the position of the immortal who guards the sect will automatically lose the power to interfere in the political affairs of Shushan. It is not only an explanation to King Luo Peak, but also to eliminate the vigilance of King Fengzhenren. What is the guest for? When Shushan needs to fight with someone, you have to come and help. At other times, do what you should do. You have no right to point fingers here. Su Jian has been in seclusion for so many years. Although he has heard that King Luo Peak has been excluded, he has not experienced it personally. Now seeing the headmaster resign and the immortal step down, he suddenly looks a little reluctant. Although he can't bear it, he also knows that if he doesn't do this, it will be impossible to end it now. Shushan was beaten into this state. Although the top leaders swallowed their anger for the sake of Qin's human sword, the monks below might not understand it. After all, they had lost face. The departure of Yuzheng sect master and Chanmei immortal marked the comprehensive rise of King Luo Peak. Qin Sword Master King Fengzhenren also immediately changed from a traitor to the direct descendant of Shushan sect master. You can't rebel against Shushan like this. Shushan sect master is your father-in-law. At the same time, with Su Jian, the great sect master, here, even if the peeps want to find trouble with Qin Sword Master, they have to consider whether it is worth it. But if you think about it carefully, this risk is not that big. First of all, in this Shushan tragedy, although the Patriarch Hall was destroyed and a Mei Mountain was split, not many people died. Only 2 traitors, Ming and Len Quan, died. Although the 2 people's crimes of collusion with the enemy have not been found out, Qin Sword Master said that they were traitors of the demon sect, so they are of course traitors of the demon sect. As long as no one dies, it is not a deep hatred. The ancestral hall can be rebuilt, and Mount Himalaya can be divided into 4 parts, which just shows the outstanding swordsmanship of the Qin Sword Master of Shushan. Secondly, although the immortal Chanmei has abdicated, his prestige has remained for so many years. Next, he will definitely fully support his disciple Su Jian and help him consolidate his power as the head of the sect. Next, the Shanking sect of Shushan will inevitably usher in a period where the head of the sect has the final say. With the immortal Chanmei helping him above and the Qin Sword Master watching him covetously below, who dares not listen to Su Jian's orders? This is the best solution and the only solution. Ling Yunpo is such a smart person that he instantly guessed the plan when he heard the 2 people talking. He had to admit that there was indeed a moment when he wanted to kill the immortal Chanmei directly and take the fragment of the Gutian stone and leave. But in this way, the other immortals who have the fragment of the Gutian stone must be extremely vigilant, and it will not be so easy to get the second piece. Now that his father-in-law has come out of retreat, his position in Shushan will soon rise. Instead of acting impulsively, it is better to take it slowly. He has been planning for 100 years, so it doesn't matter if he waits a little longer. When he enters the nascent soul stage and his main body is fully developed, he will snatch all your fragments of the heaven-repairing stone. The headmaster of Yuzheng and the immortal with long eyebrows was still looking at Ling Yunpo eagerly, fearing that the Qin Sword Master would get angry and say, "Father-in-law, we don't want this headmaster, not as good as the picture." But Ling Yunpo did not show any abnormality, but said to Su Jian excitedly, "Master, you are finally out of retreat. My sister and I have been waiting for this day for too long." Su Jian was a little embarrassed when he heard this. Although he was seriously injured and in retreat at the beginning, he was no longer in danger of life after practicing. It was just that when he was seriously injured, he suddenly caught a glimpse of enlightenment, so he did not choose to come out of retreat, but tried his best to comprehend it. If Ling Yunbo hadn't split King Luo Peak with a sword, Su Jian might have continued his retreat. Of course, he had never thought that King Luo Peak would be excluded like this without him. The immortal Chanmei was even more ashamed, knowing that the reason why King Luo Peak became like this was because he was dissatisfied with Su Jian's behavior of being seriously injured in order to save his daughter. The attitude of the immortal would lead to a change in the atmosphere of the entire sect, which was of course something Su Jian had never expected. He thought that the immortal Chanmei would take care of his daughter. The two of them were really embarrassed, and it was Elder Yuzheng who broke the silence first and said, "Kisha has come out of retreat and succeeded the position of the headmaster. We should hold a ceremony to worship our ancestors. Don't mention the conflicts in the past. The more you mention them, the more difficult it is to resolve them. Let's look forward to the future." It's just that this ceremony to worship our ancestors, everyone looked at the broken Imre Golden Summit and fell into silence and deep thought again. Chapter 775. Qin Sword Master is the best. After more than 100,000 years, a new generation of Qin Sword Master finally appeared in Shushan. Such heavy news quickly spread throughout the Shenzhou continent along with the news that the Shushan Shanqing sect was going to hold a ceremony to worship the ancestors. If you have an impression, you will remember that the last similar heavy news was that Chan Zhengzhenren had formed a first-grade golden elixir, and Kunlun Tai King sect also held a ceremony to worship the ancestors. The reason for worshipping the ancestors is actually to find a reason to invite you to come and watch the ceremony. As long as you come, the other party will start to show off to you how powerful the Qin Sword Master is. Of course, in fact, it is true. People who don't know sigh about how prosperous the fortune of the Orthodox religion is. First, Kunlun's first-grade golden elixir, and then the Shushan Qin Sword Master. These powerful monks are endless. And those who know will inevitably laugh at Shushan's strange style of holding funerals in joy. Although Shushan tried very hard to keep this secret, it was not a secret that Zhenren Jingxiao was publicly executed before. If King Zhenren had not come back to rescue, then Shushan could certainly explain that they deliberately staged an execution drama in order to find that traitor. But King Zhenren not only came back, but also transformed himself into the Qin Sword Master. In order to rescue his sister, he chopped the Patriarch Hall into firewood and cut Mount Emei into 4 pieces. As a result, Shushan was completely in a difficult situation to defend. The Patriarch Hall can be rebuilt, but Mount Emei cannot be rebuilt. If you insist on saying that you split Mount Emei for a show, it is really bullying the IQ of the majority of cultivators. Of course, Shushan has no good way to deal with this, and can only ask the new 7-killing sect leader Su Jian. Because of Su Jian's richer experience, his emotional intelligence is a little higher than Nzesu, but after all, they are father and daughter, so his emotional intelligence is not much higher. Faced with such trivial propaganda issues, the sect leader waved his hand heroically and gave a brief 3 words. See what happens. These 3 seemingly short words integrate the highest essence of management in our traditional culture. Everyone in Shushan explained them to their close friends who had sent messages to ask for information according to their own understanding. The ancestral hall is gone. It's only because the Qin Sword Master thought it was too small, so he flattened it and planned to build a new one. Don't be surprised, it will be rebuilt on the day of the ancestor worship ceremony, and it will be more majestic and magnificent than the original one. The Emei Mountain was divided into 4 parts, which was also intentional by the Qin Sword Master. Although the original Emei Mountain was magnificent, it was not steep enough, and it didn't match the temperament of us sword immortals. Therefore, the Qin Sword Master used his great magical powers to divide it into 4 parts, which were called the Great Emei Mountain, the Second Emei Mountain, the Third Emei Mountain and the Fourth Emei Mountain. The 4 Emeis are like 4 swords to protect our Shushan Mountain from falling. What about the Qin Sword Master fighting the Shushan Elders? Does anyone believe such a low rumor? They say it was the Qin's human sword. Even the immortals dare not seize the edge of such a treasure of heaven and earth. How dare the Yuning Elder challenge the Sword Master without authorization? Don't believe everything you hear, use your brains. The reason why the sky and earth changed color that day was that some elders wanted to see the power of Qin's human sword, so Qin Sword Master used his magic. Don't disbelieve it. If Qin Sword Master really wanted to attack the Shushan elders, how many of them would survive? You go and see, the elders are all fine. The new Kisha sect leader of Shushan is Qin Sword Master's master. The daughter of Kisha sect leader Jingxiao Zhenren is Qin Sword Master's lover. Those who say Qin Sword Master is dissatisfied with Shushan are fooling everyone as fools. Many versions of whitewashing remarks are flying everywhere, some people believe it and some don't. Generally speaking, those who are friendly to the orthodox believe it, those who are negative don't believe it, and as for the neutral people, they don't care what the truth is, so it doesn't matter. Su Jian also generally ignores these news. After all, he is a straightforward person who believes in strength first. He believes that as long as the Shushan Shanking sect remains standing, it is the best counterattack, and the rumors from the outside world don't need to be paid attention to at all. But there is a piece of news that makes Su Jian quite uneasy. What does Jian Xiao's rumor as the lover of Qin Sword Master mean? My daughter is still unmarried, how can such rumors tarnish her innocence? Previously, because the long-browed immortal didn't like to ask about the clear stream, although most of the people in Shushan heard about the relationship between Jian Xiao and King Hen, they all tacitly didn't discuss these things. They had become accustomed to it, so that when Su Jian took office, no one talked to him about this. This cheap father-in-law still knows nothing about this. After finding out about Ling Yunpo's past experience from Anzesu, Su Jian was also very satisfied with this disciple. First of all, this disciple has a strong and unyielding character, just like me. In the past, Zi Yunpi took a fancy to Ling Yunpo's natural sword-bone talent and asked his disciple Lu Zizhen to come and recruit him, but was sternly rejected by Ling Yunpo. Su Jian could not find any fault with his willingness to stay in King Luo Peak without a master to teach him. Later, he killed Lu Zizhen in a fight, which made Su Jian exclaim how happy he was. Secondly, this disciple's strength is outstanding, like me. When he was in the foundation building stage, he ranked second in the Shushan Immortal Sword ranking and was honored as the cloud-breaking sword immortal. Of course, there is no need to say more about his strength. Although he did not get the first place is his precious daughter after all. This disciple is actually very outstanding. He has formed a third-grade golden elixir, which is second only to the top level among the real people at the Shanking School of Shushan. The top is Suya, who has a second-grade golden elixir. It is normal that you cannot surpass her. Not to mention the Biujing competition and the Golden Palace exploration, the position of the Lord of the 12 Secret Realms, the only few places on the Shushan side were also won by his daughter and disciple. In Su Jian's opinion, Anzesu was taught by himself, so it was normal for him to have such talent and strength. And Ling Yunpo himself had never taught him, so the only explanation was this boy is like me. It was because he was very similar to Su Jian that Anzesu took a liking to him at first sight when he first joined Shushan. This was also reasonable. Kim Feng. Finally, Su Jian had some free time, so he called Ling Yunpo to the bottom of Lai Dongping and asked, "How is your current cultivation level?" To reply to Master, "I have just broken through the bottleneck recently and have entered the subtle level of the Golden Core Realm," Ling Yunpo said respectfully. From the moment he made up his mind to rescue his senior sister and stepped out of the cave where he was hiding, the bottleneck that had been bothering him was completely cleared. Well, although Su Jian had learned about the details from Anzesu, he still had to test the true strength of this cheap disciple himself. With your current lifespan, this cultivation level is also considered to be very fast. I am practicing number 5. Can you find someone who can upgrade faster than me? Ling Yunpo complained in his heart, and was humble again and again. "Master, let me test your swordsmanship again," Su Jian said, and stretched out his hand to take the cold sword that Anzesu returned to him the day before. "Just draw your sword. Then I will be disrespectful." Ling Yunpo nodded slightly, and pulled out the Qin's human sword from his body. Su Jian's eyelids jumped, and the muscles on his face twitched. He had to cough and said, "The Qin's human sword is a human artifact, and it cannot be touched rashly. You can change a sword." Ling Yunpo quickly put away the human sword, and summoned the Li Zi and Wanzhou swords, and saluted respectfully to his master Su Jian. If someone else did this, Su Jian would definitely despise him for being fussy. But Su Jian was in a state of liking Ling Yunpo at this moment, and he immediately liked his behavior of respecting his teacher and laughed loudly. "Don't be restrained, attack with all your might." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.